And we're live. Sheep. That's not your real name, is it?
No, it's not my real name, Fran, no.
And why are you forcing me to call you Sheep? Sheep?
I suppose the reason being I work for a large American corporation, and I had to sign an NDA with them. So it's probably easier for all involved if I just don't use my name, and then I can kind of talk about what I want. You can ask me what we want, and then I don't have to be any concerns thinking, should I say that? Shouldn't I say that? Etc.
Okay, and just for the benefit of everyone listening, an NDA is a non-disclosure agreement. I've signed half a dozen of those when I visited different companies. I've never really read them, to be perfectly honest with you. They hand you 4 sheets of paper and you say sign here at the bottom. The gist of it is essentially that they're not going to show you something that they do, and then you're going off to tell you their competition or a newspaper or whatever it is. That's about right. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Fran. Yeah, exactly. You're not going to divulge any, I suppose, company secrets to anybody. And if you're working for a company that makes you sign one, they don't want you to share any of the information or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, well that's understandable, I suppose. What type of information, is there, without giving the name of the corporation, are you happy enough with the alias to name them? You don't have to, obviously.
No, probably just handier just leaving it as just.
Okay, no, that's.
How about
that's
the biggest corporation in the world?
Okay. People can Google that and find out what it is. So what do you do for them?
So I work for them as a health and safety officer. So the company I work with, they have a smaller sub company that I work for, which works in web services, so data centers. So I'm a safety officer in the data centers in Dublin. So the company I work for have 17 data centers in Dublin alone, and there's 3 safety officers in there, and I'm one of the 3. So we'd be overlooking what happens in the data centers and making sure that they're running safely and.
That they're running safely, as in
the buildings run safely, and everybody inside the building is doing what they should be doing, complying with any company policies or any local regulations that they need to comply with.
So you're the data center equivalent of a building site, basically, the safety officer in a building site.
Exactly, Fran, yeah.
Everyone's wearing their hard hats, the handrails aren't being taken off, no one's setting the safety ladders on fire.
Yeah.
All that good
well,
stuff.
when I came from a construction background, so I worked in construction safety for a couple of years. Before I worked more in facilities management kind of safety is what I'm at now. And when I was in construction safety, you would be literally telling fellas, get off that scaffolding, take that badge out of your mouth, stop messing there. All that kind of, I suppose, low level, high risk stuff that where they'd be doing extremely unsafe stuff. Where when it comes to this, it's that. I suppose there's just policies for everything. Nobody really does anything wrong. So it's all real high level, minor things that you're picking up on. Is this policy right? Ergonomically, to set up correctly? Is that machine EU standard? All that kind of stuff, as opposed to some fella standing up on top of a scaffolding with no handrail while trying to hammer something in, or, driving a machine without a ticket. It's really it's really minor things that you're kind of picking up on the whole time.
Nitpicking, essentially.
Kind of, yeah. When you come from the construction industry, where there's, cranes lifting big, huge tanks and stuff over walkways, and there's maybe 20 or 30 track machines in the one area with dumpers here and dumpers there, and lighting not being great, and then you go into a finished data center where there's little lines marked, walkways everywhere, and everything is just real clean, and it's basically what's the farmer? It's basically like going into a farmer kind of. It's that clean. It's that well regulated and everything.
Cleaner again, nearly.
Yeah, nearly.
Or as clean at least.
Yeah. A data center itself, it's kind of split into 4 areas. So you kind of have an admin area where everybody sits, office staff, work, security, reception is, and then the actual data center itself has 3 components. So it has the electrical power, the data storage itself, and then it has the cooling system. So inside the data storage part, it would be literally spotless, like a farm, like a clean room. A clean room, an operating kind of room, that kind of clean. Yeah.
Okay, and just to pare back a small bit, I have a vague notion of what a data center is. It's essentially where cloud computing happens. Is that a fair example or description of it?
That's exactly what it is, man. Yeah. So basically, a data center would consist of where to store the cloud storage component of it. Before I started working for this company, I pictured that they were using all the storage for themselves, but then when you actually come into the inside, you realize that they might have maybe 1% of the storage that they create in Dublin. The rest of it they're leasing out to companies. So just say, for example, if you had a website and you wanted to save the information for people buying materials on your website, all that information is saved on servers. All the banks in Ireland, basically anything, Netflix, anything that requires you logging in or any kind of data being stored is saved in there, and they're charging companies a premium to make sure that the data is there. It's there all the time. It's there when they need it, and it's safe. And it's safe from any risk of being a rackdown or a drop where the electricity goes. The next thing, the server drops and people can't buy stuff or that kind of thing. So inside the data center, the two main risks are security. So a security breach where somebody could break in, steal somebody's information, log into a server. You'd be able to pull anybody's credit card details for anybody that ever bought something in, just say example, Debenhams or something online.
eBay or Amazon,
anyone like that. Yeah, they'd be able to pull the information. And then the second one then is power drops. So they're really concerned about, obviously, if power goes to some of the servers or to the whole building and all the servers drop, you're having big customer impact, and so people can't buy whatever it might be at that time to log into eBay, as you could say, go to click buy, and they can't buy it because the servers are dropped.
Right, okay.
So there's big there, the two big emphasis, and then I suppose safety. They always put safety number one, but really it's customer impacting is what to say, whether somebody steals the information or whether somebody of the power goes. So if you were to look at a data center in Dublin, to make sure that the power doesn't go, there's two separate supplies from the ESB for each room. So a data center is normally split into 10 different data storage rooms, and each data storage room will have an electrical power room supplying it, and then it'll have a cooling system supplying it as well. So for each room, there's two backup generators, two electric supplies. So if one electricity supply goes, the second one kicks in. If the other one goes, which very rarely happens, the generators kick in, and the generators have up to 2 months worth of diesel in them and keep it running. So there's never been an electrical drop in Ireland or for this company in Dublin due to all the control measures to put in place to ensure that doesn't happen. So there's massive money. All the stuff is tested all the time. All the generators are ran once a day. Everything is tested, the switch over equipment from if the power goes. They do all these drills, like game day drills is what they call them. They do them once every 2 or 3 days, where they'll go to a place and they'll get them to turn off the main power and test it to see if it's working correctly. And they're really, really stringent on that. And then when it comes to the security, each data center itself will be inside some kind of a enclosed area where they'll have an outer fence which is has motion sensors on it. Then there's about a 3-meter gap, and in the 3-meter gap there's lasers, and then there's another inner fence that has motion sensors, and then the far side of the inner fence there's about another 2-meter gap, and that has lasers as well. So that's the security. And then when you come in through the main gate, you'll go through a double main gate. Everybody has to pin and badge through every single door and every single gate you go through. So if you go into the data center, you badge twice to get in the main gate, you badge to get into reception, you sign in, and then every single door you open from there on you have to badge. And if you go into the red zone, is what they call is, that's where the data storage actually takes place. You have to go through a metal detector. Go through the metal detector, and then you go in. Obviously, you can't bring your phone or any kind of media or anything in with you.
And the idea of the metal detector is so you don't sneak a USB key in your shoe or something.
In or out or whatever it might be. Yeah.
Okay. And is there presumably for the red zones or the kind of where the most sensitive or where the data is kept itself?
Exactly. Yeah.
Presumably that's kind of very limited access in the first place.
Oh, extremely. Yeah. So there'd only be certain. So the workers in the data center, there's three different types. There's the guys that look after the electrical and the cooling. So they are usually mechanical guys. So they'll be qualified electricians or mechanical engineers or whatever they might be. So they make sure the power's going to the data storage area and the cooling system is working correctly. And then there's the kind of more nerdy, geeky kind of guys that look after the actual servers, and they're all data technicians and computer engineers and all them kind of guys. So the computer engineer guys would have access into that data center, into the data storage area the whole time, and so the other guys would, but none of the admin staff that don't need to be in there would have access into it. Okay. So it all have badge levels of access. Everybody have a different level.
Yeah, so the guy cleaning the canteens fob isn't getting in anywhere.
No, yeah, you're barely in the gate really. Yeah.
And you mentioned cooling a couple of times. It seems to be a big part of the whole centre.
So if you picture, if you've ever sat in a room where there's a couple of servers going, or even a computer, or if you had a big telly in a small room, you'll start to feel it getting a little bit warmer. So if you multiply that by 1,000 and you've servers that are just say 2 meters high, and there's probably 30 or 40 servers in it, and they're all running, and that would be one rack. So one rack, and that could be multiplied by 600-700.
And when you say rack, you mean pallet racking? Or
I suppose I call it a rack. They call it a rack, I suppose. So it's a metal frame that's approximately 1 meter wide by 2.5 meters high, and on that rack they hold all the servers, which hold all the information, and then there'll be a power supply to that rack. So there could be 400 or 500 racks in one room. So after a few minutes, that room will get up to a massive amount of temperature. So they need to ensure that the coolant extracts all the hot air and blows it out through the roof. So the reason there's a lot of data centers in Ireland is because the temperature in Ireland doesn't go up or down. So if you're in a location, just say in the Middle East or whatever, you're paying a massive amount of money to keep the place cool. And then if you're in somewhere really cold, it obviously needs to get up to a certain degrees for them to work efficiently. So Ireland doesn't go up, doesn't go down much, and it's literally perfect. So that's why Ireland has more data centers than the rest of Europe put together.
Is that something you just threw out there, or is that
100%? From 100%, yeah. And from the company I work with, work for, we just roughly, there's 20 data centers in Dublin, roughly. The rest of Europe, the Middle East, and that's the way they class it. Europe, Middle East, and South Africa. There's less data centers in all of them put together than in Dublin.
Fuck. And has that anything to do with our 12.5% corporate tax rate, you reckon?
Yeah,
or maybe a little.
If even, yeah, I wouldn't even say they're paying that. Yeah, so supposedly it's because how well trained the staff are, or we are in general. Just say with the computer engineering and that kind of stuff, low corporate tax rate and
temperate climate.
Temperate climate, yeah.
Sure, it's the exact same for myself here in the business I run.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
We're a vertical farm, exact same thing. I don't want to pay to cool it, and I don't want to pay to heat it as best I can.
And would you ever be paying to cool it?
It's a tricky one there. Yes and no. So I have to remove humid air, so let's say it's running at thereabouts 20 degrees all the time. But if the humidity rises, I put in dehumidifiers,
okay.
But I'd need to have like industrial humidifiers. Like that would be incredible, like 20 grand's worth of industrial humidifiers to pull down the temperature, to pull down the humidity. So what I do is I vent the hot, moist air. So I am cooling it, but my intention isn't to cool it, if that makes sense.
I get you. Yeah, it's a byproduct of actually. So is yours the same as like you'd have in a house, like mechanical ventilation? Do you know in all new houses the heat recovery because the house is sealed and then it extracts a certain amount of air every minute out of each room and then releases it and brings in fresh air?
I don't have heat recovery, so I don't clean the heated air that I'm exhausting and bring it back in.
Okay, I get you. Yeah.
I basically dump it outside.
Yeah.
Well, I don't dump it outside. I actually heat my production room at the production tunnel with it.
Very good.
So it doesn't really matter during the summer because I'm heating a room that the doors are opening. Do you know that kind of way? Because during the summer, the lads can just open. Or I say the lads as if I employ people. I don't anymore. Thanks, COVID. So when I'm in the production tunnel, I just open up the double doors. But during the winter, you open up the double doors. If it's -2 outside, it's -2. You're working.
Yeah.
Close the doors. It might be -2 outside, but it still might only be 7 degrees inside, which is marginally warmer than a fridge. Then it really works when you're cycling the excess heat from your grow room into your production. You'll notice the difference. So I'm trying more and more as the business kind of grows and I can reinvest in it. Heat recovery would be a huge big thing for me, but at present it's just not viable.
Yeah, because I actually only finished building my house a couple of months ago, and when I was looking at the build cost, the heat recovery was €5,000, and I didn't have it in the budget, and I was like, sure, I'll just open the window. Sure, what's all this fucking heat recovery? You know what I mean? Like, what's it all about? Like, it's like the house is really well insulated. I've nothing to worry about. And for the last 2 months in my house, like I've been sleeping with a window wide open upstairs and wide open in the bathroom just to create a draft, and it's still that warm up there. And I turned the heating off in my house in the 1st of April, and I still haven't turned it back on, like, because the stale air, there's nothing taking it out of the room, like, because it's that well insulated. Even with the windows open, I'm still quite warm in the room. So it is. If anybody is going to build a house, it's well worth the £5,000.
Put the heat recovery in.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm actually looking at getting mechanical extraction. Just they're not going to. use the heat. It's just going to be extraction from the room every,
Well, if you could, what I've done in there now is I have sensors, so it'll detect a spike. So if, let's say, like an average room temperature is probably 18.5 degrees thereabouts. So with my room, if it gets to 22 degrees, let's say, that's getting a little bit too hot, so that'll kick on a sensor, or that would hit a sensor, which will just turn on an exhaust fan and just blast out But that's only for an extreme, you know, that kind of way. It shouldn't get to that. It's a fail safe, I suppose, because I know it's obviously completely different, but it's the same principles apply. If my room goes too high in temperature or humidity, or low in humidity or low in temperature, I'll lose the crop. It won't survive.
Course,
do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So not quite the exact same level as, multinational corporations and data storage, but you get the gist.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same.
Your title is safety officer.
I used to be safety officer, and now it's I think they call us regional safety engineers, RSEs. So everything has some acronym for everything in that place. I've never.
That's
seen
the corporate world, man.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So I'm an RSE, so regional safety officer. So I'd be Dublin would be my region, and I'm a safety engineer. That's what we are. We're regional safety engineers.
Okay, and it doesn't strike me as being safety of people. It's safety from fuck ups and loss of profit, or is it? Or?
No, it wouldn't be actually. No, there would be an emphasis on the company brand and ensuring, just say in the likes of like what COVID going on, it'd be very important for the company, not for us, not to have some kind of a COVID spike in one of our data centers or something like that. So the corporate brand and the name of the company would be very important. From a safety side of things, they wouldn't like people to think that it wasn't being run safely, but it would mostly be keeping people safe, I suppose. But again, it's mostly all policies as opposed to in the construction industry. It's all wear your PPE to stop you getting injured, or this kind of stuff. Where in there, it's like, is your desk set up properly?
Have you got optimal lumbar support?
Kind of, yeah. No,
you don't want repetitive strain injuries.
Yeah, but there is some stuff is high risk, I suppose, with the voltage, electricity, and the current coming in to power them. So, like one of them data centers would use the same amount of electricity as Navan would.
Jesus.
Yeah.
How big are they?
So I'd say it's about. We'll go with the average. Every year, or every time they build one, it gets a little bit different. Usually, the offices get smaller, the canteen gets smaller, and where it actually store the data gets bigger. So I think they're on average about 200 meters long by maybe 100 meters wide, or 100 meters wide by 200 meters long.
So that's 200 feet by 600 feet. Have I got that right? No, I've messed that up. 100 feet, so 300 feet by 600 feet. Put in football pitches, for fuck's sake.
A football pitch.
Okay, right.
At least a football. Maybe 2 football pitches long and a football pitch, 2 football pitches wide. Maybe.
Okay, they're fucking huge.
They're
basically
massive. Yeah, absolutely massive.
And that's what you're describing size-wise. There is the data storage. It's not the campus, say. It's not the.
Yeah. So the way they've it done, that they'll have a big enclosed area with all the fencing and security set up, and inside that they will have 3 or 4 of these data centers. So each one of them will be roughly that size. I don't even know what the square footage is. I'm trying to remember, because when I was working for the construction company, I used to how I got the job with them was I was working in construction safety, building these data centers for an Irish construction company. So I'm trying to think, because I should know this, but I actually don't know what the square footage of them is. But it's
you're
absolutely massive.
I'm no good with numbers, but it's absolutely massive.
Yeah, massive. Yeah, they're huge. Yeah, absolutely huge.
When I'm driving into Dublin from Navan, say, when I'm coming into Blanche on my left-hand side there, just as I hit the dual carriageway as opposed to the motorway, there's a colossal building there. Yeah. Is that a Facebook data centre?
That's a Facebook data centre, yeah.
Okay, so anyone in the area who knows that construction site will get an idea of the
exactly.
size
So
of the
you will, when you drive in, I think you can see two buildings on the left there, so you'll see roughly what they are. And I think that there might be a small bit different size-wise, but it's basically it's the same thing, really. Like.
Okay.
You were going to ask me something there, and then we got sidetracked.
Oh, fuck no. Fart in the wind. So you were working, I get how you did the crossover now. You were doing site safety on a construction site, building a data centre, and then the corporation that the data center was being built for needed good safety people, and you met someone along the way, and
Yeah, exactly.
now
Yeah.
you're being called sheep on a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it kind of escalated quickly, I suppose. But yeah, no. So I worked for the construction company. So I was an electrician by trade. Done that for about 7 or 8 years. Had absolutely no interest whatsoever. I went to Canada, and when I was over in Canada, I remember working for a larger construction company. So I was working for a small guy that had 2 or 3 apprentices here in Ireland, and there was never anything happening, and it's just depressing shit, really. Like, we were doing house bashing, so that's where you go into a housing estate, and all he was doing was just houses, constantly houses. So you go into a house, you're there for 3 or 4 days doing the first fix, the guys come in and do plaster, and you come back a couple of weeks later, do a second fix, over and over and over and over again. Now, it was a bit of crack with the boys on the construction site, but I remember thinking, oh, there has to be more to this. And then when I went to Canada, I was working for a big company, and we were doing big, huge projects, and we were doing like high rises, and we were doing kind of industrial stuff. And I remember just the safety officer, I met him a few times over there, and I was thinking, oh, yeah, I could kind of like that kind of a setup, because I was never any good with my hands when it came to electrical stuff. Absolutely useless. I just being honest, I had no interest.
An electrician for what is it, 7 years?
Yeah.
No good with me hands.
No.
Wouldn't know a fucking live wire from
No,
here.
no, I was all right at the thinking way of it, but like when you're doing working as an electrician, you have to bend conduit, and you have to do certain things. And like, I worked there for 7 years, and I still can't bend a piece of conduit. Like, I can wire a fuse board, but I can't. I'm just shite with my hands, and which is grand. I have no issues with that. So when I came back from Canada, there was not much work. So when I came back, I ended up working for my cousin, who owns a roofing company, and that roofing company was working for this large construction company that I started working with. So I was working with
as a subcontractor doing
roofing. Doing the roofing on the data centers. So that was my first exposure to. I remember the first time I went up, I was like, "What is this? Or where did these people get the money?" Because they had each. I'm kind of going sidetrack, but each data center has these Cummins Caterpillar generators, and they're like 200,000 euro each. Like, so each electrical room has 2 of them, so each data center has 20 of them, so you're talking like 4 million or whatever the math is. And I remember thinking, this was back in 2010 when I came back from Canada, and I remember thinking, or 2011, like, who are these people? You know, where's all this money coming from? But so I was working with the roofing company, and I says, right, I'm gonna have to go back to college and do something. So I went back to UCD at night and done I think it was a level 6 safety engineering kind of role.
VTAC thing, is it? Or?
No, I don't know if it'd be QQI. Does that mean something?
I don't know.
Yeah,
not to me anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I went back and done that anyway, and finished the course. And when I finished the course, the larger construction company that we were subcontracted into to do the roofing, there was a job going with them. Started working with them, and I started working down at the bottom of the M50. We were doing a larger office block area. Worked there for 2 years, and then the data center role came up for the construction company. I moved up to my current location, working for the construction company. Worked there for 3 years, I think, and then I found out that they were looking for a role. It was kind of said to me on the side from one of the corporation employees that this job was coming up. It'd be a good one to get. Looked at the job, the money was quite good, and I always swore if I got a chance I'd get out of construction, just because when I finished my apprenticeship in 2008, I came out, finished college, and there was absolutely no jobs. Like, and I remember, just at the end of it, and I remember thinking to myself, if you ever get the chance, try and get out of this. So that was my first time ever being off a construction site in my whole life, like, and into this kind of corporate world where they have like diversity seminars and
brilliant. Tell me all about that. I can't wait, man. Diversity seminars.
So on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, you will get, because it's an American company. So because it's an American company, and the company I work for is a kind of a sister company to the American company, or a smaller version of the American company. Would that be right?
Oh fuck, sounds about right.
Yeah. So the big company is a big, huge company, and then there's one part of the company is data storage. So we're under the kind of big umbrella. So when they're sending out these seminars and all kinds of stuff, we're included in them.
Oh, okay, so it might be more based for somebody with like an office block with 200 people, but
kind
you
of
have to.
We don't have to, but. You're encouraged to attend them, but I haven't looked at one yet, or that kind of thing. But yeah, you'll hear, it'll be a seminar on recruiting diversity skills, or PR, or just basically what not to say. And any of the training you start off, like when you join the company, you have to go through this long training kind of schedule, and half of it is diversity in the workplace. people's opinion in the workplace. Basically, how not to say anything wrong, how not to say you guys instead of you people, or instead of saying lads or men or whatever it might be. Just, you really do go through a lot of that.
They're just terrified of people taking offense, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And all, you know, like you'd see an email, you know, Black Lives Matters and what we're doing to this, and you know, yeah, lots of stuff comes from head people in the company, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is a bit different than what I'm used to. Yeah, but yeah, you know,
Out
like
in the building
yeah,
site,
yeah,
you
lads
know.
in the building site, like eating breakfast rolls and shouting at each other, like, and then you're sitting there in your little corporate kind of at the meetings and stuff. It's different. I do enjoy it in some ways, because like on my team, so we've the Europe, South Africa and Middle Eastern team. That's who we all report to, the one manager. And you know, there's a couple of us in Ireland, then there's German, French, Italian, there's Swiss, Swedish, South African, Bahrain. There's a kind of a whole mix, and the team meetings are something, I don't know, you kind of seem to learn a lot more about stuff. Or if you go to do these things where the whole team meets in one location and you all have the chats and stuff like that for a 2 or 3 day team bonding thing, it's just completely different than skip load of pints after on a Friday evening.
That's the height of the team bonding on the site work.
Yeah. So yeah, it's different. It's different, but yeah, you definitely have to have your wits about you, and you wouldn't be saying anything. There's a group, like a company, kind of like a Facebook Messenger, an internal company one. You'd never write anything like cursing or using derogatory terms or anything like, no, like you wouldn't be saying anything like that on anything, just in the off chance that God only knows they could be tracking the computer, or that like did like I used to have my work laptop from when I was working in the construction company, and I'd be looking up.
What would you be looking up, Shane?
I'd be looking at just say downloading Showbox films, or God knows what I'd be at, and I'd be like, I give a fuck. Like, or now I'd be like the laptop. I'd be even worried about. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything. Never look up anything on the work laptop or the phone or anything like that. It'd be strictly just work, not YouTube, not anything like that.
It just probably wouldn't be worth the paranoia, would
That's
it?
Yeah. So they seize your laptop. So if you take a picture in the data center, that's your phone's wiped, gone. Good luck. If you log on to certain websites, your laptop is just wiped. And I'd say if you've done that once or twice,
you'd be sacked.
You'd be sacked, yeah. Even if you badge incorrectly into a door, if you do that twice or 3 times, you're gone. Like,
I'm sorry, what does that mean? If you try to gain access to where you're not allowed?
No,
or?
not even. No. So as I said, security is probably I don't know if it's the most important or second most, whatever value they have anyway. But if you every time you walk through a door, you need to put in your PIN. You need to flash your card. It beeps. Card reader lets you through. If somebody puts in the wrong PIN or doesn't walk through when they're supposed to, or 2 people go together through a door, this will cause an alarm, and then security, I think it's a 6 or 7 hour process to write up the report as to what happened. So if a direct employee does it twice or 3 times, to just get the gate. So
right.
It's drilled into you from
so there's no element of here, hold the door.
Like,
no, the way you'd hold a door.
It's really weird. Like even when you walk in, you get wanded with like a metal detector,
like at the airport, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember actually I went to a Bellator in Dublin, and when you're getting wanded in one of the data centers, you stand up, you put your hands, and then you turn around and you put your back, and they wand you around. So I went into the Bellator event, and the security went to pat me down, so I put my hands up, and then I turned around and I had my hands up, and your man was like, "What the fuck are you at?" Like, I was like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "All right," and I had to put the head down and keep her lit. Like, I'd say, like, "What is this like that?" It's just funny. You just get used to it. And even with the doors, you have to close the door within 10 seconds, or an alarm goes off. So you badge in, walk in, close the door, and you have to hear a click, and then you'll walk on. And
so when you're getting out of the shower, you fucking have to bang the door behind you.
And I haven't been up there much lately, obviously because of COVID and working from home. But yeah, you really get used to it.
It's just like anything else. It's just repetition and habit. It becomes part of you, like. I can just see you now getting into a lift or something. Someone shouts, "Oh, the lift!" And you're just shaking your head as the door closes.
They're really strict on the security. I've never seen anything like it, and I would have kind of got a taste for it before I started, just because when you were working for the construction company, we would have had to do jobs in there, so we would have had to badge in and do stuff like that in the live areas. But even they have like the teams of ex-Army Rangers, or what's the other, Delta teams, that they have a big focus on employing ex-military people in America. So they'll have teams of these Delta forces or these Army Rangers that fly around the world. They pick data centers around the world and they try to break into them.
Oh fuck!
So these
proper war games type
stuff.
Like.
Stuff. Yeah, like there was one in the West Dublin, one of the West Dublin campuses. and you see them, they had like a rope ladder and stuff like that. And the only reason we knew this had happened, the safety team knew it happened, is because when one of them jumped over the fence, he actually hurt his ankle and he had to report it. And then we had to do an incident report on it.
No way.
Yeah, but you've seen like the video footage of them all in like full camo and stuff like that, at like 11 o'clock at night, and they're
Scary shit.
Yeah, throwing the stuff over, climbed over the fence, then they rolled under. They knew where the lasers were. They had got badges that I don't know where they got them. Obviously, should they work for that company, so they're going to have badges. But they had a badge to get them in through one door. I think they're allowed to use one badge to get in through one door, and then have to try and navigate around, using emergency exits and all kinds of stuff to get in. And I remember I was only in the company about 3 or 4 weeks, and I was sitting in one of the data centers, and the security manager was in an office across from me, and I could see her. And I could see her screaming, and she was on the phone, and obviously that was how we're getting the phone call from America saying, by the way, we've a person standing inside your data center and your security haven't copped.
Jesus.
Yeah, and she no longer works for the company.
Fuck.
Yeah.
No messing.
No. Straight in, no kissing.
There's a big data center, I believe, is it right beside where the lads ripped down the Aldi? Remember the lads ripped down the Aldi during this? Was it during the snow, the bad snow?
Yeah, with a track machine or something.
Yeah, they pulled the fucking roof down.
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
But I believe, I don't know if it was Amazon or one of those big multinationals anyway, have a data center there. I think was it in Tala? I'd say the security man in that place had a bit of a meltdown when that was going on. Like, what do you do to stop a fucking JCB driving through your fences? Fuck you and your lasers.
In one of the locations, they do have issues with young lads throwing stuff across the fence, setting off the oaks, and even with crows, they've issues with crows turning on, or seagulls actually hitting into the fence, and now they have like these eagles, pretend eagles. That's like if anything minor happens at all, there's some ridiculous control measure put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again. Like,
of course,
it's mental. Yeah, like even all the campuses have like speed limiter, like like a laser that tells you are doing 20 kilometers an hour, you need to slow down to 19 kilometers an hour, or whatever it might be, or it's all really regulated. Like it's
mental.
It's mental. Yeah.
Is there many people in there?
No.
Yeah, because that's my understanding is that they're colossal. They're billions of dollars or euros or whatever it is. But to run them and to maintain them, it's relatively small.
The construction of it would probably cost about 100 million per data center, so per one building, and that data center is split into 10 areas, so 10 data storage units, 10 of them. Each of them makes 100 million every 4 years.
Fuck.
So that's just 100 million. So it costs. You'll make 100. Sorry, I might have confused myself there. 100 million per hall. So what's that? That's 1,000 million in 4 years is what they make, and it costs them 100 million to build it, and maybe another 100 million to run it for the 4 years. So there's 800 million. Oh, I must have confused myself. So your initial question was how many people work there. So there's usually a guard force of just say 10 security guards at all times.
8 hour shifts.
But they work for a subcontractor, like a security firm. So they're separate. And then there's probably 3 electrical or mechanical guys on full time. And then there's 3 kind of the computer software kind of guys. So that'd be 6. The facilities manager, somebody that runs the facility. So 10. I'd say 10 direct people, and then a guard force of maybe 5 per building or 10 per campus. So campus,
Jesus, so
it's really
10,
small.
20 people
really
in a
small
building worth 100 million. Makes $1 billion every 4 years.
Yeah,
whatever it is.
It's crazy. Yeah, like I think 5% of the whole global workforce works for this data storage part of the company, and they make 25% of the revenue.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, so it's massive. It's absolutely massive. It's by far the fastest growing part of the company, but by like miles, like absolute miles. Like I started. I'm there just a year and 2 months or roughly something like that, and when I started the share price was 2,200, and I checked it the other day, it's actually after going down, but the share price was 3,500 when I got my first shares there a couple of weeks ago. So it just goes up and up and up and up and up. It's mad.
Yeah, there's no stopping big tech.
No, like I remember I was talking to one of the building managers, so he's with the company 8 years in Ireland. Now the company's only in Ireland about 10 years.
But how long is data storage really a thing?
Not much. But when he started with the company, he got 250 shares in the company. So the shares are worth €3,500 each.
Jesus, yeah, fuck.
And I was like, oh, do you have any left? He's like, oh, no, I built a conservatory. He's like, so when he started, they were worth €20 each or €50 each. And they've gone up and up and up. So as every year, the employees that get hired on get less and less and less. So I would have got less than 50 and he would have got 250. And the people that are hired this year will get 20, you know what I mean? You get less and less.
You might be getting the same value, but not the same amount.
Yeah. Like I remember him saying, you know, the wife wanted a conservatory, built a conservatory, and now every year the wife says to me, why did you sell them? So he says that, whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. That's his excuse for the motorbike out the back that he never goes on.
Yeah, that would have been worth €600,000.
Getting back to the electrical work you did, because you said you'd go and you'd first fix a house and then you'd second fix a house a couple of weeks later or whatever way you phrase it.
Yeah.
I'm relatively familiar with first and second fix and how that works. So just for the benefit of people who might know, because again, you're as much as an electrician as you are someone who works in a data center.
No problem. Yeah. So just say Fran is going to build this house. After the blocks and the roof is on and the house is sealed, the windows are in, the electricians will come in and do the first fix. So you'll decide where you want your lights, your sockets, if you want internet cables or whatever it might be. So then it would have been 3 or 4 of us would have come into the house and we'd have to pull from where the fuse board is located, which is usually in the back hall, utility kind of area. You'll pull a certain size cable to each item. So up to a light you use 1.5mm cable, so you'll run that to the light and you'll run it to each light downstairs, and then you'll run a switch cable from the switch up to the light, and that'll turn off and on the light. And then for your sockets, you'll run the first cable from the fuse board down to the first socket, and then you loop it round. Usually you do 1 socket loop per room. You'll do that, then you'll go to the cooker, then you'll go to the electric shower, then you'll run on an alarm, and then you'll run any kind of telecom or TV or whatever you might be.
And that's all first fix?
That's all first fix.
Okay.
Put on the little boxes for the sockets and the walls. You might have to do a bit of chasing if you're the dog, or they'll get somebody in to do it for you.
Chasing being Kango and holes through the walls so the cable can go through and you can pass over.
Yeah, that's dog.
All that fun work.
Yeah, you'd be doing that when you're a first year apprentice and stuff like that. So you do that, put on the boxes, all that kind of jazz. Then a couple of weeks later, whenever the person had the money, the slabber will come in, put the slab on, then the plaster will plaster, and then you'll come back and then you'll put on the actual sockets and the switches and stuff, erect the light fittings, put on the light fittings outside, and wire the fuse board, and then figure out what exactly he's done wrong.
Then, why when you flick this switch the cooker goes off and you flick this switch it's fucking
so you'll do that, and you'll get temporary power put to the house just to test it, and then the contractor will write a cert which is given to the ESB come out, then connect the main power comes on, and then you're away in a hack.
Okay, so that will typically be how, let's say, a domestic one-off house would be built, or a house within a housing estate. In the data center end of things, you're dealing with fucking, 200,000 generators, and there's a half a dozen of them. So your typical electrician isn't doing that. Who does that kind of work, or is there is that subcontracted out again, or is there in-house people? Or
so in the build or in the maintenance of the building?
A bit of both, because it's
okay. So in the construction side of things, so there's a couple of kind of large specialist electrical companies in Ireland that do it. So they all seem to be from Tipperary or Waterford for some reason. So there's STS, there's Sure Engineering, Quebec. There's a couple of kind of larger ones. So the main contractor, so the GC as they call them, or the general contractor, who would be like your Hegarty's or your Collin Construction or any of them big large construction companies in Dublin. So they'll they'll tender for the job, get the job. When they get the job, either they'll pick then which electrical company is going to do the job, and they'll just be industrial electricians is what they're called. So I was a domestic electrician, so house bashing. And you'll have guys that will have done apprenticeships with large, you would have heard of Mercury Engineering and stuff like that. So there'll be guys doing apprenticeships with them, and they will have only done large, this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they mightn't be able to wire a house, but they'd wire in a 200,000 generator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They'll be using like huge big cable. Like there's lads that just do glanding, so the large cables that come from the generators, they come in, or from the mains itself, they come in as aluminium into the main board, and then from the main board they're sent to subboards, and anything from the subboard out is in copper. So when I used to be working for the electricians, we were subbed in a couple of times to work with a guy actually from up the road here, called Louis Ty Electrical, and the guys, all his guys done was just pull the large cables for the main electrical contractor and connect them into the connections. And then the main electrical contractor would have all the other guys to do the rest of the fit out. So in the data center build, it's probably just say 100 million for the build. It's probably 60 million for the electrical contract. so it's 2/3 of the price of the build.
Yes.
So it's basically
They're giant computers in a way, aren't
yeah.
they? Like they're...
So the electrical contractors, what they'll do is they'll bring the mains into a substation, because it's that much electricity. There needs to be a substation on each site. So like picture the substation that's out across from your mother's house. Is there a substation out that direction?
Yeah, beside Blackwater Park in Navan.
Yeah. So there'll be one of them in the campus, and then that'll feed four buildings itself. So the power will come from the substation, it'll come into the electrical room, it'll be broke down into the small boards, and then each rack will have its own power supply. So the power supply will come from the electrical room and go into the rack, and the rack will power up all the little servers.
Okay.
Now there's a little bit more to it than that,
Well,
but yeah. But
I feel qualified.
yeah, I will give you a job. Yeah, but that's what I suppose that's an industrial thing. So these guys have been built. It's the same 3 or 4 electrical contractors that do them all. Whether it's the funny thing is, if you go to a data center in Sweden or anywhere, it'll be an Irish electrical company that's doing it, and it'll probably be an Irish construction company that's doing it, because they started doing them 10 years ago here. They've a track record, and the American corporations are like, oh, they've done 5 of them perfect here, we'll get them to price Sweden. They do them in Sweden, everywhere. So it's the same. Like even now, South Africa, it wasn't an Irish company, but in Spain, it's an Irish company. In Germany, they were all Irish companies. So it's actually Irish construction companies and then Irish electrical subcontractors who are doing all the work in all the data centers in Europe, basically.
It's funny because a friend of mine is... My own friend's name escapes me now, but he does this. He has a similar role to you, but his background, as like, I know being an electrician isn't really your background, but his background is being a welder.
Okay.
So he works in mostly pharmaceutical companies, not welding. He'd have a team of lads welding underneath them, and he's basically, I think he's an inspector. So he basically just walks around and checks all the welds and all that welding stuff. But it's all pipe work for God knows what they're fucking forcing through pipes in pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah. So there's a good bit of that as well, actually.
But what I mentioned, the reason he came to mind was he's often in Bahrain for fucking 3 months, and then he's in Sweden for 2 weeks, and it's presumably the same kind of principle applies. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's actually great for the. I wouldn't like to see what the Irish construction, what the climate would be in Ireland if there wasn't. Literally, there's probably at least 10 of these being currently built now, which have 300 or 400 construction workers on them at all times. Like it's a massive industry. The only concern that you would have is that they'll run out of power. So any data center that's ever built in Ireland, it'll never be built anywhere south of Dublin, because the main thing is getting the power to them. So you think, oh, why don't they, which is a good idea, why don't they build a couple of data centers in Cork or in Wexford,
or wherever.
Whatever, spread
cheap
the love.
lands,
the whole lot can't get power. So the restriction for all of them is the power. So when they go in to get planning permission, they'll get planning permission, and part of the planning permission could be you need to build a gas power substation that costs 50 million. You need to build that. When you build that, then we'll give you the planning permission so that you're not pulling from the national grid. I think the data centers pull something like 15-20% of the, maybe not 10 or 15% of the national grid goes purely to the 40 data centers in Ireland.
Jesus.
It's outrageous.
Why did you say not south of Dublin? Was that a flippant remark?
No. I don't know. I'd be lying. I think, I don't know if it's done yet, but there's supposed to be an interconnector between the Irish grid and the English grid, which is in the north, and you're supposed to connect, and then we have an unlimited power supply coming from England. I don't know if that's...
Is that nuclear?
I don't know, Fran. The word Sellafield came into my head, but I've no idea why that. So I'm not gonna. I don't know. All I know is, example, the company I worked for were looking for new sites not in Dublin. Navan was one of them. Drogheda was one of them. Dundalk was one of them. It's always north of Dublin because you have a guaranteed power supply. That's why it's all there. That's why it's in Dublin. I don't actually know if it's because of it the north, or that's the power, or if that's where the power comes in somewhere in Drogheda, or I actually don't. Obviously, it can't be any more north than Drogheda, or it would be in the north. But yeah, so that's why they're never built far away from the north.
It's gas. It's
I don't know actually.
One type of person that I'm keen to get in is an electrician, say, but somebody who deals with the national grid.
Yeah.
Do you know the kind of way? And the same for plumbing then. So I've a cousin of mine is one of the top guys in Irish Water. Now, I don't know if he'd actually come on, but I'd love to get on somebody like that who could just give you the inside scoop on, where the water comes from or where the electricity comes from. Because I think for the most part, it comes out of the plug and it comes out of the tap.
Yeah.
And, that's people's limit of their knowledge of it. Like.
I wouldn't actually know that. To be honest, that's pretty much. I just know it comes from the north.
Yeah.
Wherever that is, it comes from the north. Yeah.
As a safety guy, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, the corporate image. You don't want, let's say, any amount of staff. You don't want a COVID outbreak basically in your data center or whatever it is,
of course,
for public image or whatever else. So you're presumably up to your tits in COVID stuff since March.
March, mental, absolutely mental. So I'd say 10%, 15% of my workday is purely just dealing with COVID related new policy. This person we think has COVID, what are we going to do? So there's a call every day at 10 o'clock where all the leaders from Dublin go on a call, discuss what's happened in the media, what's been released from the Irish government, what's coming from America, discuss any plan for the next day, if anything needs to happen, if somebody is a possible case, what way we would deal with it. All the data centers are fogged, so they have this anti-COVID spray. I don't know what it is. Some spray that they spray every data center after every shift. The whole thing.
Jesus, how does that work? Is it like a fog machine?
Yeah,
type thing,
basically.
Or?
Yeah.
No, I'm no electrician, but
it's whatever. They fog. You're right. They fog all the admin areas. They don't actually fog the servers.
Okay.
Not after the first time. But they fog it after every shift. If somebody is confirmed, they're obviously pulled out of it straight away. Anybody that's been in close contact with over the last couple of days, they're pulled out straight away. The whole area is fogged, and then there's an emergency plan of what's going to happen. It's mad. It's mad though, because coming from the construction industry, where I was working for a big construction company, so money wasn't really an issue as such. If you wanted something, you go to the QS. He'd be like, "Oh yeah, you can get that, ergonomic desk or whatever it might be." They'd actually give it to you, which was great compared to coming from the very first person I worked for, where there was only 2 or 3 people and you weren't getting holiday pay or that kind of.
Oh yeah, your seat is the bag of plastic.
Yeah, exactly. So just say for the likes of COVID, COVID came out first. They decided they were going to buy IR cameras for every data center. So when you walked in, instead of you using the way it was for the first couple of months, when you walked into a data center, you had to take your own temperature, put it on a handheld temperature sensor, put it down, wash your hands, and then proceed in if you're under 39 degrees or 37.9 is the limit. So they decided that wasn't an efficient way of doing it. So they got these IR cameras. So for Dublin, I think it cost €500,000 just to put one camera in each data center, and that was just like a flick of a pen. Oh yeah, we need that. Yeah, bang, gone. And 2 weeks time, they were up running. Like nothing seems to. There's no the money side of things doesn't
exist really.
You want a new piece of equipment, or they decided they wanted to get face masks for everybody with their little name on them, and so they were more comfortable than the normal ones. And your man's like, "Sure, it's only $6,000. What are you on about?" There's $6,000 isn't much anyway, but for just the likes of the €400,000 for the cameras, it was just literally it was just flick of a pen, grand. Yep, get them in. They come in. There'll be a good few. Yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of COVID stuff. Yeah, a lot of COVID stuff. I'm fucking sick of it. Now, the only advantage is I get to work from home.
And how does that work? I mean, to me, the idea of having a kind of a safety officer working from home, is a bit,
Yeah, so normally the one safety officer will be over just say 6 or 7 buildings. They have an area that they work in. So I have 6 or 7 buildings. So normally I would just go up to one building and I'd sit in one building, and you're literally in front of the laptop all day. Some fella rings you saying, "We're going to do this new task. Will you look at this risk assessment and tell me if it's okay? We're after getting a new piece of equipment. Can you have a look at this and tell me whether it's EU rated or not? Or you're just sitting in front of the laptop typing away, looking at this, looking at that, typing away on a meeting to America, on a meeting to this person, this meeting, that meeting. 95% of your time you're literally sitting in front of a laptop. The very odd time somebody might say, "Come down here and look at this electrical room. There's something we need to erect something over here. Can you see? Tell us if it's okay to do that." I'd say less than 5%. So the fact that I'm not there makes absolutely no difference whatsoever.
And given the nature of the security and the protocols and the COVID and fucking everything else, will you ever be back in there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
And just on that point, sorry, before you even continue, Does that make you fearful that you'll be replaced by somebody in America or China or Botswana or do you know kind of way?
No, I don't think so. No, job security is the one major advantage just in the climate and the foreseeable bills that they're talking about over the next 5 years. So they expect to double in Dublin over the next 5 years. So there'll be roughly 40 data centres in Dublin. So they'll need 6 or 7 safety officers, and you need to be up to speed on current regulations, Irish regulations. It's no, I've actually no, I never even thought about that. Thanks for that, Frank. No,
La 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 la, I'm not listening.
yeah, no, I never, no. And the fact is, not this is relevant anyway, but the Dublin ones are actually the safest in the world.
Oh, it says you.
But no, working from home is the fucking job. Like, I have 2 screens, stand-up desk, the whole shebang. Get up, do me workout, start work at 7:30, finish at 5, walk out, as opposed to battling the M50, getting home at 6:30. It's a great job. So they said February next year is when they're going to look at whether we're going to come back or not. We get an email every morning that asks us a question. The question might be, are you happy with your manager? Do you feel like we're providing enough COVID supplies for you and your work team? Do you feel your workload is acceptable? You know, all these kind of questions. And over the last couple of months, the questions are you as productive as working from home as you are from your office? Do you feel still connected to the team? Are you still able to complete your role? So they're asking these questions all the time in the aim of making the data center smaller, having less admin, not having to pay for whatever it might be, not having a risk of you falling over, not having you driving up and down, getting an extra hour out of you because you're not traveling to work. So yeah, probably, like, I don't know, but in my head, we'll be maybe going to Dublin once a week, twice a week, if there's something major on.
If even.
Yeah, like a few times a week, somebody will ring me and say, look, David, there's a footpath out here and something's after happening. Can you come out and just have a look and make sure it's all right? Or we're doing a new project over here and we want you to just review what way we're going to do it. So there is that kind of 5% where you would actually have to come and look at something. But apart from that, I don't think we will be. Hopefully, because I'm probably saving maybe 400 quid, 500 quid a month on diesel.
Just on diesel.
Yeah,
and
toll. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it's 100 quid a month on tolls, and basically 80 quid or 90 quid a week on diesel.
To say nothing about your time.
Yeah, or even
You're fucking sitting in traffic. Do you know, it's like it's worse than the cost of the diesel and the environmental impact of the diesel. Just you sitting in a car when you think about it, no need really.
Yeah, and I do think they'd be fairly progressive anyway, but I do think they're really seeing that, like, because I actually do way more work at home.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, like if I'm in an office, I'm in the one office. It's kind of like a construction site in a way. There's a bit of crack. The boys are messing up. Usually the electrical boys are messing at something over there, or they're looking up something, or they're slagging, or whatever's going on, and you're like, oh, what's going on over there, or whatever. Or you're just sitting in front of your laptop at home and you're just
nothing to do but work.
But work, yeah.
On the questions that they do ask you every so often, is it every day? Did you say
every day? Yeah.
Okay. How honestly can you answer those questions?
Completely honest, or I'd be sacked by now, I'd imagine, if it wasn't. Cause
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Like, I've done a lot of courses, and the instructor or the guy running the course might ask you for feedback. How would you rate, me out of 10? It's all perfectly confidential. Is it 10? 9. But just to keep the peace, like,
I'd say for the first month or two, everything was 5. 5 is good, 1 is bad.
Okay.
And then they release the questions every month, so they'll release the questions for Dublin and say these were the questions asked in Dublin. On this team, the electrical and mechanical team, the guys that look after the power and the cooling, they answered these questions, how happy they were here. So everybody, there's full, you can see what
full
every team.
Yeah.
So most of the questions are kind of not towards your manager, but some of them are. So you'll see the Europe team, how happy are they with their manager? 1 out of 5, and you'd see how happy they are with their workload, how happy they are with their work-life balance, how happy they are that they can connect with their team, how meaningful do they think the meetings are, how much time do you think they're wasting in the meetings, all these kind of questions. And you can see, and you're like, so there's no names. Well, as I said, I'd probably be sacked now if there was, because I'd be some of them might be, how happy you are with your workload. It's a 1, like they work you like an absolute dog.
Do they get their money's worth?
Oh my god, yeah. I in my previous employment, you get at the end of the week, you get that feeling of, right, I've 6 or 7 of them things done. Maybe I've 1 to start next week. big project. You have your normal firefighting admin shite that you need to do every day, which takes up half the day or 3/4 of the day, and then you have them couple of kind of over projects that you kind of need to get done all the time. So that would have been in the construction industry, and then on a Friday you might have one that you didn't get done, or two on a bad week, or three, and then you take into Monday morning and you'd be like, right, I'll get this done. Where here it's you've 10 projects to do today, not projects, but 10 jobs you need to do today. By the end of the day you have 12. By the end of tomorrow you have 13. I've never got below 20 things on the list that I write every single day, jobs to do today, and at the end of the day it's always longer, it's never shorter.
And does that get kind of demoralizing?
Yeah, it does actually, yeah, especially lately. I don't know if it's because I'm working from home, I don't know if it's because I'm getting to do fuck all, or whatever that you'd normally do, go away on holidays, that kind of stuff. I don't know, or
is it work or is it COVID?
Yeah, I think it's work to be honest, because in my previous employment I had one boss that would say, David, here's 2 or 3 jobs, will you, bigger projects, we want to introduce a new policy on this and that, will you, do the homework on the policy, see if it's going to work. If it's going to work, will you introduce it, make the signage, send out an email, whatever it might be. Where with this company there's a Dublin manager, there's a Europe manager, and then there's a global manager, and all of them will decide. Like, I got an email the other day saying, oh, we think you're the person to lead this project, and I was like, what I don't give a fuck about this fucking you know what I mean? Like, it was some international rack moving project. So as I spoke to earlier, the racks are these big heavy things that have all the servers on them, so if one needs to be replaced, you need to move it, so it could weigh maybe 1 ton or 2 ton. So they have a good few incidents where there's issues with the rack being moved, people running over their own feet or whatever it might be while pulling the rack. So we've a new project, we think you're the team leader, there you go, there's the project. And like, yeah, you just had 13 things and now you have this 14th thing, and there's a meeting every Wednesday, and you have to lead the meeting, you have to set up the minutes of the meeting, you have to get everybody involved, you have to get people to do tasks. And like, I don't give a fuck about rack movement, I don't care, like, do you know what I mean? I literally don't, like, I don't really care that much about safety in general, but if I, you know the way,
I'm so glad you used the names at the start.
but you know the way, like, I enjoy dealing with people and having the chats, and in my previous employment it was kind of like a site based, there was a site team, everybody was up for a bit of a laugh, and whatever, you done the work and you worked 7 to 5, so it wasn't a short day or whatever. But where this is kind of, there's no real crack, and it's just these projects all the time, and I never really care. I more enjoyed the dealing with people, somebody coming into you for an induction in the construction industry, or coming in and I don't know, whatever, they were always in looking for help, and you were doing this, and it was only a matter of you deciding whether, yeah, that's right or wrong, or that's safe to do, or you might have a couple of policies that you follow, whatever it might be. Where now it's never kind of up to you to decide. You're always reviewing some global policy that might take you an hour or two to review and pick out the small bit that your man possibly wanted to know about, and then you tell them. I just have no interest.
And how long are you doing this role now?
A year and 2 months.
Okay. And having done it for over the year, you get your first year in a job, you get a good fucking feel for it.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Would it suit a more introverted person? Would you consider yourself to be more extroverted?
Probably, yeah. One of my issues, my main issue, is that I'm dyslexic. So when I was working in my previous employment, I could just ring people and say, you can do this, you can do that, you can't do this, this is the reason you can't do that. You're getting off site because you were hanging off the side of the scaffolding. You just literally ring his boss and say, this fucking eagle is after doing this, get him off site for tomorrow. Problem gone. When it's a direct employee and you have to write a big explicit email quoting regulations or policy as to why this person has done something incorrectly and what you think should happen from here on, as opposed to you just ringing somebody. So for me, that's challenge when it comes to reading, writing or spelling. The fact that I'm writing emails the whole time as opposed to ringing people or just talking to people, I think that's, or writing policies, and yeah, it probably doesn't suit me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, something that you have to cross your T's and dot your I's and in the right order.
yeah. It's more so you can always use spell check, and you can use kind of apps that help you, or not apps, programs that help you with that. My main issue is not being able to create, if I have to describe an incident that's happened after happening, and if you were to ask yourself to do it, you'd be able to articulate what is after happening, where I know what's after happening, I just can't seem to where to start, what it should sound like. You just
But
kind
you
of
can speak it.
yeah. But and when I write it down, it's just a muddle. Like, so in fairness, the last company I worked for sent me to like report writing skills and a few things, and it did kind of help in a way. But yeah, I would struggle with that. So maybe that's half the frustration, and then just probably not dealing with people. You're dealing with Americans or whatever, and it's I don't know. You can't really relate to them that well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, anyone outside of Ireland, well, the Polish might be the exception.
Yeah,
but,
the English aren't too bad. When like they can at the start of a meeting, they'll be having the crack. They'll be like, "All right, Davey," or whatever. You know what I mean? You have some of the rest of them, it's just
no crack.
no crack. Yeah. So yeah.
I didn't know you were in Canada. When were you in Canada? How long were you in Canada for?
I was only in Canada for 9 months, and
Only.
yeah, well,
it's a long holiday.
Well, no, it was a planned. I had a 2-year visa. 2-year visa. Something happened and I had to come home.
Okay. Were you, or where were you in Canada? Big spot, like
Vancouver.
is that
West
East Coast, West Coast?
West Coast, yeah, above Seattle, kind of California kind of side.
Cold as balls? Are you that far north?
No. It's basically Ireland with 3 months of summer. Magical place.
Yeah.
I mean the exact same climate. I think it even rains the same amount of days in Vancouver as it does in Dublin. So basically, you have the same weather front. I don't know if that's the right word. If you picture Ireland, you have the Atlantic, then the weather front hits land and it drops the rain. So on the other side, you have the Pacific coming across, gets to Vancouver, drops the rain. So even if you were to drive 300 kilometers or 400 kilometers inland from Vancouver,
it's a lot drier.
It's way drier. Yeah, you get to the plains, as they call them. So like your likes of Calgary, Edmonton, in the middle of Alberta is the middle to the left of Canada. So that's where the plains are. So the left hand side, if you're looking at the map like we normally would, is British Columbia is the name of the state. So we kind of like Leinster. So British Columbia is basically Connacht, and that's where Vancouver is. So it's a beautiful place. It's right on the there's a big huge port, and it's right on the coast, and behind it you have the Rocky Mountains kind of surrounding in kind of like a U.
Cool.
It's deadly. Yeah, it really is. It's deadly. Yeah.
You mentioned you had to come home. Is that something I took by your tone of voice? You didn't want to kind of talk about it, so I might.
Yeah, no. Nobody died. Nothing bad like that. It just there was a reason I had to come home, so I had to come home.
Okay, sounds so. When you're living at home now and working from home, do you live by yourself? Do you mind me asking?
No. My girlfriend lives with me.
And is she working from home?
Yeah. She works for an Irish regulatory body.
Oh, she's not going to be happy with that.
No, I know who she works for. I just don't know whether. Yeah.
That's okay.
She works for.
No, that's fine.
They begin with a H, and then there's a couple of letters after it. Yeah.
What's that been like? Both of you working from home?
Oh, it's grand. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, it's grand. Yeah.
I don't know why I sounded really surprised there, but
really,
really.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I actually met her at work in the first place. Yeah. So when I was the senior safety officer on my site, so we had to get juniors, and I junior to help you with and kind of with the admin. There's a lot of admin work working on safety in a construction site. You have to get everybody safe past, all them kind of bits and pieces. So
you got yourself a hot junior.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. So the boss hired 2 people and sent them out. One, and then 2 months later, and I was like, these people are fucking useless. And they were, in fairness. And he goes, all right, grand, yeah, so you hire the next one. I was like, great, fucking will then. So he got 3 or 4 examples, brought us in, done the interviews. I was sitting there, and he's like, right, we'll do the interview anyway. And the first one was this, I think she's from Cork, this quiet one. Then there was a fella from India. What's the country beside India that's the same kind of size? India? Pakistan, yeah. Pakistan, then there was herself, and then there was somebody else. They done the interviews, and she came in. She was the 3rd interview, and I was like, "Oh fucking hell!" I was straight out.
Shout out to herself.
Yeah, I was like, "Jesus." She's a fitness instructor. She's from Spain, and she ticked all the boxes, if you know what I mean. And that was grand anyway. And the interviews were over. Your man sat down. He says, "Right, who are you going for?" And I says, "Oh yeah, your man from Bangladesh. Azif is his name." And he's like, "Oh, you on about like your one's way better." And I was like, do not put me in a situation where I'm that, we're in no way. And he goes, "You're just going to have to fucking deal with it, David." And I was like, right then.
No way.
Yeah, that's what he said. He goes, you fucking man up and deal with it. I was like, all right, grand. So in the place we were working, we were in like a container, like not a double, a 20-foot container. Would that be right?
Yeah.
So yeah, 2 chairs a little bit further away from where I am and you
like
are.
a site office, basically.
Yeah, exactly what it is. Yeah, site office. The 2 of us were in the site office. And I'd say about 5 days into it, I dropped the hand.
Oh dear!
Yeah,
I'm so glad you fucking didn't give me your name at the start of this.
No, obviously that's not what happened, but it's something. So we started working. So she worked there for 6 months. So if I didn't get used to working from in close proximity to her at that point, then like, does that make sense?
Different at home though, isn't it? Like, I mean, when she's your fucking girlfriend, you share the same house.
No, it got like after like you were working together. At the start, just say 7 in the morning till 5 in the evening, 2 nights a week you'd be up with her. The weekend you'd be there with her. So there was very limited amount of time where you weren't in our company anyway. So
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but then again, you don't fucking. There's a big difference. Like if you're glued to somebody, if you're sitting in the same chair 40 hours a week, even that an exaggeration as it is, obviously. Yeah. But there's a big difference between that and waking up beside her and going to bed beside her and working together and having lunch together. Like, do both of you take lunch at the same time? And, because like I've heard of teachers who work together, and even just in different jobs. There's plenty of married couples around the place working in the same building. But that building isn't usually their home.
I don't know. No, it doesn't. Not at all. I actually have to say, and I would say it otherwise because I think she's not going to listen to this, or she doesn't. So I can say what I want. Like, but. No, like I have an office upstairs. She works out of one of the rooms downstairs. We meet at lunchtime, have our little lunch at 10 o'clock, bit of porridge or whatever, and then at 2 o'clock we meet a bit dinner. I come down at 5. Like I go up at it, like I start work at 7:30 or whatever it is, and I finish at 5 or 5:30, and you wouldn't see me for more than the 2 breaks or 20. I'll take 20 minutes each break, and that's it. So it's literally just, oh well, how are you? What's going on?
And time wise, like, can you? Let's say lie on till 11 o'clock and then work till 8, given the nature of your job, or do you have to be kind of logged into the system or whatever it is?
Kind of. You'd think. I'd say. No, I don't know. I'd say if you told them possibly that one day a week you couldn't start till 11 because, you had to drop the young lads to school or whatever it might be, they'd probably say, okay, that's fine. And then you'd arrange all your other meetings away from that. But like, we've a meeting every morning at 10 o'clock about the COVID. We've team meetings at 8 o'clock in the morning. Then you might have some meeting at 5 o'clock in the evening. I'd say half the day you're literally on some meeting. So most of the Dublin meetings are from 8 to 5, if you know what I mean. So you can't really, it really is 8 to 5 8 to 5 wink like it could be 6:30, 7 o'clock, whatever it might be. Now, not too often, but there's fellas that work with me in Dublin and they'd be like routinely they're on some global project with somebody in America, and the person in America sets the meeting recurring every week Friday
at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is your 3 o'clock in the morning, or
mostly 8 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah
So the boys are up at 8, work to 8, finish at 5, 6, and then back in at 8 o'clock for another meeting or two. And yeah. So no, for me, I'm fairly stringent. 7:30 to 5 or 8 to 5:30 or whatever it might be. That's the way I stick to it. I couldn't be dipping in and out, So you'd see them emailing at 6 o'clock in the evening, 7 o'clock in the evening, 8 o'clock in the evening, 9 o'clock in the evening. I'd be like, what do these people be at? Like, they must be constantly just looking at their phone and then back in to log in to send an email. And yeah, no, 7:30 to 5 is kind of the standard. Fuck it, it's enough. Like, sure was it?
Oh god, yeah, plenty. Monday to Friday, presumably, or is it? What way does that work?
Yeah, Monday to Friday. Yeah,
because the data center is obviously 24/7, 365.
Yeah, 24/7, 365. Yeah.
And are you on call then at the weekend or out of hours?
I suppose you are. Yeah, like you're supposed to have your work phone with you the whole time. Now I don't. So if something happens, we've actually have a WhatsApp group where there's a couple of us from Dublin on the WhatsApp group. So if something happens, the lads that check their stuff all the time, you'll see it in the WhatsApp group, but I don't really pay much attention. But if there was somebody badly hurt, your phone would be ringing. Like, but unless that, you'll be getting emails 24/7, but you're not expected to reply to them. Like, you know what I mean?
And what is the real danger? I mean, out of the
electricity. So you have massive, melted,
electrocuted.
Yeah. So like,
or melted.
Melted. Yeah, that's what you're talking about there. Melted. Yeah. So you in any of the electrical rooms, you have to wear certain arc flash gear. So arc flash is cal rated clothing.
Anti-explosion stuff, isn't it?
Kind of, yeah. It will mean that if the
Oh, it won't generate a spark.
yeah, and if one of the panels is looking to drop a load from the panel into the ground, so you won't be inert, if that makes sense. So if
Because of your clothing?
yeah, it's arc flash. So an arc from a breaker. So just say there's a breaker there,
like
and
the
it
gas
jumps,
hob, the
you know,
little arc of
tick, tick, tick,
electricity.
yeah,
Yes.
picture that. Only it's like whatever,
A
200
foot thick.
yeah, and melting you, like that's so
Jesus.
so you have to wear arc flash gear, like, you know, some of the switching, they'll have big huge rubber gloves, they'll have full balaclavas, and then they'll have a full face mask and like tick
And what are you walking on? What's the subs?
rubber mats.
The whole place is just rubber mats.
No,
is it?
the electrical rooms are all rubber mats. Yeah.
Okay, and that's just to stop you from being grounded.
Yeah, to
as
grounded.
such.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And you'll obviously be wearing rubber-soled shoes and all that kind of business.
And that the rubber-soled shoes, that's issued to you by the corporation, or
yeah. So all same as any company, all personal protective equipment is supposed to be paid for by the company and
Yes,
issued
of
to you.
course.
So you'll get your own 2 sets of. So any of the guys that work on the electrical stuff, they'll have all this arc flash gear. They'll wear it all the time, so they have to wear. They look like Snickers and like a shirt kind of thing. So it's like a heavy shirt and Snickers and boots. They'll wear that when they're in and out of the electric room, and then if they go to do any live switching, where they need to maybe, as I said, there's 2 different power supplies coming into the electric room. They need to switch one off and one on, or switch from one to the other. When they do that, you're turning off massive power and turning on massive power. So when they're turning it off, they'll have the full suit on them, the whole balaclava, the headgear, the whole lot, and they'll face away. Nobody else is allowed in the electrical room, and they'll push the big breaker down and cut off the power, and then the same. So they'll have all big, massive things, you know, policies in place, safe operating procedures, or steps that you need to do to make sure you do it correctly. So that's all laid out, and they'll all follow them down to a T. So yeah, that's the main risk. Definitely the main risk.
Yeah,
is electrical shock.
And what are you talking about? And what's it even measured in? Is it amps, volts, watts?
Amps, volts. Yeah, amps and volts. Yeah. So amps. So
put that into context for me and
okay. So
everyone else.
Yeah. So just say, right. Okay. Your electrical socket has a 13 amp fuse in it.
Yes.
So one of these boards could be 4,000 amps. That's
okay.
Now.
And how many boards are you dealing with?
So the main power coming in, I think, is 220,000 volts.
Fuck. Okay.
Now
that's...
this is actually embarrassing because I am an electrician and I should know this shit. And to be honest, I'm literally just saying numbers. I don't fucking know. It's massive. It's massive. That's it's massive. Yeah. All I know is it's big enough to literally melt you. So I had to be like, right, that's enough for me. I have it right. So each of the campuses has a 110 kVA distribution center. So kVA is 1,000 volts. 1,000
volt amps.
Volt amps. Yeah. So I don't. When you get your I really should know this, but I actually don't. That shows how much I don't really care that much. But I really
but like you're talking, you know, inter-county pylon.
Yeah.
Level
exactly. Yeah. Like you're talking like outrageous electricity. Yeah.
I might have picked you up wrong, or you might have misspoken earlier, but you said at one point that the electricity, forgive me now, but it goes in aluminium and comes out in copper. Did you say that?
Yeah. So
what does that mean that it goes in aluminium?
Yeah. So the cable is that the voltage is that high that you don't actually. The reason you use copper cable in a house is because of volt drop. So if you connect, this is just a basic. If you connect an electrical power lead to a fuse board and then you walk 50 meters away with the lead, every meter you walk, the volt drops. So if you have it plugged in and it's 220 volts or 230, which is what you get at your board, if you walk 100 meters, you might only get 200 volts. And if you walk 150 meters, you're probably down to 100 volts. So the lower the voltage, the harder it is for the power to go through the cable.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's to do with resistance.
Yeah, to do with resistance. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the bigger the cable, the easier the power flows.
Yes.
So you picture you have a shed out the back of your house and you want to plug in, a welder or something like that. You'll have to run a large cable from your fuse board in your house out to the shed. So a large cable, where if you plugged your welder inside, you wouldn't need that big of a cable because it doesn't have to travel the 50 meters before it gets to your shed and then is distributed out. So when the power is coming from the ESB or from one of these substations, it actually comes in aluminium. The reason it comes in aluminium is because the power is that high that you don't actually have to worry that much about the volt drop. And aluminium is, I don't know, a tenth of the price of copper or whatever it might be. Now, again, that's just roughly. Yeah. So the cable comes in aluminium and it gets to the data center and then it's distributed through copper. So when any of the electrical guys that be working in there could be, when they're running the cables in the first place and they're doing the construction side of things, the boys could be making more money off the copper that they bring home in their toolbox than their wages.
Jesus.
Yeah. So all the boys that work for the cable pulling subcontractor of the electrical company, so the main electrical company do the whole job, but they get specialists in that pull these big copper cables in, and then they connect them into the boards, and the guys that connect them at the boards will
have the waste. But it's kilos of pure copper.
Yeah, so they shouldn't have the waste. So they're, robbing it or whatever. So you like, it's hilarious because I was subcontracted in to the cable pulling company for 2 or 3 months. I actually worked in Amsterdam in one of the data centers as well. The boss was like, I'll go work for them for a couple of months. I was like, oh, this is great. And they buy swag. So swag is what offcuts of copper is called. So everything is about swag. They're like addicts. They're like, oh, did you get much today? Or what's the story with that? Or because what will happen is the main electrical company will have apprentices walking around keeping an eye to see, oh, he's after cutting. So if you pull the cable in, when you pull the cable in to get it into the board, you need a certain amount of leeway to get the cable bent and up into the board. So there's always an offcut. Nobody ever has it perfect. The guy pulling the cable doesn't connect the cable. It's a different fella. So the guy connecting the cable always has a couple of mil, but a couple of mil in a cable that's the width of a cup, you could say, it could be worth €30 or €40 in weight. So I think copper was €60 a kilo. So
$6,000 a ton.
$6,000 a ton. Yeah. So, there could be, a little kilo here, a kilo there, a kilo there. Yeah.
Right.
So the lads could have 300, 400, 500, 600 quid worth of copper. So that you'd see them with their toolboxes. They never had tool bags or toolboxes that you carried by hand. They used to always have them in these little roller
trolleys.
Trolleys, yeah. So you'd see them
hide the weight.
Yeah, hide the weight. Yeah, hide it in swag. Yeah. Some of the fellas had two of them came together and got a container, and instead of going to the scrap dealers in Ireland, were shipping it out via container themselves to China.
Fuck, weigh the container basically full of copper and away with it.
That's how much you're talking about, like.
Jesus. So
it's the swag, yeah. They'll be always on about the swag. Much swag today, Davey. They're all Nordies as well for some fucking reason. Yeah, mad. It was a good experience. Yeah, I went to Amsterdam I think I was there for a month or 2 months. 7 to 7 Monday to Saturday, 7 to 4 Sunday. $2,000 a week.
Wow. Fuck.
Yeah.
And the place in Amsterdam that you're in, I know it's not going to be the same as the place you're in now, but what I'm thinking of is because of, I think, what's called leanness in, for example, Ryanair, I believe all their planes, they might have 500 planes, they're all identical.
Yeah. The
idea being that if one pilot calls in sick, or if, whoever calls in sick, or it needs to be fixed, it's all the exact same. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're working on a Ryanair plane, they're all the exact same. Engines, seats, fucking cockpit, the whole lot. Are the data centers kind of similar across the board? Could you do your job in a data center in South Africa?
Yeah, I could. Yeah, it would be. It's fairly similar. You have power, you have the servers, and you have the cooling. Now, all the equipment would be completely different. An example, the company I work for, there's actually companies that build data centers and then lease them back to the data storage companies.
Yes.
So they'll actually, the construction, they're like a property development company. They'll actually foot the 100 million to build the data center and then rent it back to the data storage company for 50 million a year.
It's the same thing as a huge construction company building a bridge and then leasing it to the country they built it in.
Yeah, same as the M3. Sure, is it SIAC or what's that company that?
Yeah, SIAC and Ferrovial,
something like
a joint venture.
Yeah. So same principle as that. So we're taking over ownership of one of them currently to rent it for the next 10 years or whatever, because we can't build them quick enough. And so all the equipment is different. So there's different risk assessments for the equipment. But yeah, it's all different, but it's all kind of the same, if you know what I mean. The cooling is a little bit different, and the electrical rooms look a bit different, and the generators aren't Caterpillar or something else.
Whatever brand, yeah.
But it's the same, roughly the same idea, but it looks a bit different. But yeah, it's the same.
Okay, and on the cooling side, how is it cooled? Is it hydro-cooled, or is there water involved, or is it refrigeration, or is it just basically blowing hot air out the sunroof?
So air handling units, they're called AHUs.
Yeah.
So it's
big HVAC systems.
Yeah, basically a big H, and it just sucks out the hot air and it just blows it straight out onto the roof. Now, there's definitely cooling involved because I know we need to do Legionella testing in.
Sorry, Legionella?
Yeah, so Legionella, Legionella is a form of bacteria. I'm going to rhyme this off because I have to do safety induction the whole time.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So there was a company. Legionella was first discovered in a hotel in America in 1950, and the reason blah blah blah. that is actually how I started. No, because I can't. I read it off a screen. Like I couldn't. I wouldn't remember. But basically, what Legionella is a bacteria, and it thrives in between. I think it's between 20 degrees and 40 degrees, and it multiplies. It's found in water at a temperature between 20 and 60 degrees, and it multiplies, and it can actually kill you.
Legionnaire's disease, is that?
I think it's Legionnaire. I don't know. Is Legionnaire's disease rat's piss?
I have no idea. No, that's Wheels disease.
Oh, well then that's what it is. Legionnaire's disease. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Okay.
Yeah. So I know the only reason I know there's water involved because I know we actually have a company that come in and do the testing to make sure that there's no Legionella in any of the water in the buildings, and they test the air handling units. So there's definitely water involved to cool the
servers.
To cool the air going out before they can release it into the atmosphere. Maybe something like that. Would that make sense?
Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah. So you're right. Big air handling units that just suck a certain amount of hot air out of the data hall every couple of seconds or minutes or whatever, and like these units are 2 meters by 2 meter. That's how big the ducting is, if you know what I mean. And
you fucking crawl through.
Easily,
run through them.
You nearly would, yeah. So they come out of the data hall where the servers and where the heat is generated, and they go into a big air handling unit, which is like a big huge box, and then it's brought up and out the roof.
Yeah, because my understanding, as part of kind of heat recovery systems generally, I don't know if it's in yet or if it's coming in, and if it is coming in, it mightn't be coming in for another fucking 20 years. But the idea is that if you're creating excess heat, for example, like I am in my grow room, or like you guys will be in data centers, the future of that is that you're not allowed to just vent it out into the air, and it might be in to a certain degree now. I'm not sure how much or how little. Have you any dealing with that?
Yeah, I know in one of the newest sites, I don't know exactly how it works, but I know that they're either feeding electricity back into the grid that they're not using. So if there's an excess amount of electricity that they don't actually use, they're feeding it back into the grid in the local areas. And there's one of the newest ones as well has some kind of the air before the air leaves it's some heat exchanger that's pulling the heat and heating water, and that's going into the community. There's definitely something. There's them two elements.
I'd imagine so.
Yeah, and I'd imagine, to be honest, it's outrageous that there's not more, considering the amount of electricity and the amount of hot air they're releasing, that there's not more government. You need to be doing this. Like in one of the ones I work in, there's like a bee farm. This is them offsetting the carbon footprint of like a couple of little bee boxes.
Yeah,
and like they're using
fucking piecemeal. Like.
Yeah. So there's a little environmental team, but like it's. Yeah, the government, sure, they're getting so much tax or whatever. Often they're just like,
Like I remember seeing, I think I saw it on LinkedIn before. There was a girl that I was connected with. She changed jobs, and Mary McGee or whatever her name was, has changed jobs, and her new title was, what the fuck was it? Now let me get this right. Head of Head of Environmental Sustainability at IKEA, the disposable furniture company. And her first post was like, we've made a massive transition. We've gone from plastic straws to paper straws, and you're just like, Jesus.
Yeah. So there is an environmental team in Dublin, and their sole responsibility is making sure we get planning permission.
Sorry, I lost you for a second.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So I think there's three or four people that work for this company in the environmental team in Dublin. But their only job is to make sure that you get planning permission.
Yes.
Whatever environmental things due to, because of the size of the generators, each data center has 100,000 litre diesel fuel storage. So there's a couple of things that would cause environmental concerns. So that that's solely their job, is just to make sure you get planning, make sure you're complying with whatever.
Here's an interesting one for you. I only found out this recently that diesel goes off.
Yep. I don't know. Well, I don't know that much about it, but
no, I wasn't expecting it to.
But
just what's made me think is, what did you say? Is it 100,000 litre tank?
100,000 litre,
or is that across all the generators?
That does roughly 10 generators.
Because I go through a fair amount of diesel here between heating the place and just deliveries with the van and that. And I bought it was a tank of diesel. It was about, don't quote me on this, but it was about 1,000 litres of diesel maybe a year ago. And it was, again, don't quote me, but I think it was 1,300 quid. And I bought the same amount again, and it was fucking 700 quid.
Yeah.
From the same company. Now, maybe I could have shopped around and I could have got a bit better, but I mean, a difference of it practically doubling. I was thinking, hang on a second, I could have bought an extra tank and got this another 1,000 litres for nearly the same money. And then I got thinking, what if I bought a 5,000 litre tank and, you know, I fill my car out of it and the lads working with me fill their car out of it and we could get by that way.
Yeah.
But then after 2-minute Googling, it was like, oh no, diesel goes off after a period of time. Now,
Yeah,
I didn't even go any further than that.
Yeah,
Like, maybe it lasts 20 years, I don't know.
Yeah, so my relations own a diesel distribution company.
Okay.
And I know that one of my cousins was talking about it a couple of months ago, and he was saying due to the price of kerosene going down in April, or was it March or April, people were filling their tanks that much that old plastic diesel tanks were splitting in half, and the diesel was going everywhere, and a lot of people were buying second tanks just for that exact reason, because the price of kerosene had gone down so much because of COVID, or at the start of it there was a big drop in the price of kerosene. I think it was like, it used to be like €1,000 for a fill of 1,000 litres, and it was down to 320 or 230 or something.
Yeah.
So there was loads of people that were just filling the tank.
Yeah,
Buying a second tank. So I'd say 10. I'm talking shit. I don't know. I wouldn't imagine it's less than 3 or 4 years before I don't know.
But even 3 or 4 years, would you be running tests on your generators
the whole
that
time?
much?
Yeah, the whole time.
To cycle through that amount?
Yeah, to do, to test it the whole time. I even remember last year, or was it 2 years ago, there was a water shortage, and they had 40,000 litre standby tanks. Some company was hiring them in just to have on standby in case that the water levels dropped before a certain amount, and there was any kind of water shortage put on, that they could just pump the water straight into the...
Yeah, you see, that's where it gets kind of weird, isn't it? Like there's a drought, certain communities don't have water, but you know, the big data centre has fucking plenty.
Like you know, like a huge McLorry kind of size, you know, like 40,000 litre kind of articulated, sitting outside each one of them ready to connect, and like
just fail safe after fail safe.
Yeah,
after
it's
fail
madness.
safe, like.
I even remember on the heavy snow, they had teams staying in hotels beside the data centres, and the team would come in and get up onto the roof and shovel a bit of snow off each time, just to make sure that the roof weight didn't go above a certain amount. And all
yeah,
mad stuff. There's like a plan for a plan, and there's a plan about this plan, and then there's a backup plan if that goes wrong, and there's a meeting about this plan. And
yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I meant to say something a minute ago about the heat recovery.
Yeah.
There's the biggest glass house in the UK. I can't remember how big it is. You know, the size of Mead. Practically. It's fucking colossal. Measured in acres to give you an idea of the size of it. Like, but it's it was built to grow tomatoes, but it's right next door to a beet processing. No, it's a sugar factory. So they bring in beet. You know,
sugar beet.
Sugar beet. There we go. They bring in the sugar beet to process it. Now again, this factory's huge. You could employ fucking 500 people. It's enormous. But it creates a massive amount of heat as a byproduct of processing the sugar, and all that gets pumped into the glass house to heat the glass house. But an extra added interesting point on it is they're growing cannabis in it. In the UK, they've been doing it in a couple of years. GE Pharmaceuticals, I think they're called.
So the cannabis, as in, has a CBD level which is kind of high, and then a THC level that's lower than 0.3%.
I don't know, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm interested in your incredible fucking level of knowledge in the subject.
Yeah, so I used to smoke on a good bit, I suppose, and I gave it up about 2.5 years ago, and I still like the notion of smoking it or whatever. So about a year ago, there's a grow shop which is down the road from my house, which sells all the stuff you might need to grow your vegetables, wink wink, and they started selling this CBD that it can be any percentage of CBD, but it has to be lower than 0.3% THC. That's whatever the limit is in Europe or Ireland and England anyway. And you're able to buy Purple Haze, Pineapple Express, whatever it might be. You smoke it, it tastes exactly the same.
Well, it is.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. And I know I was also buying it from a company in England, so I'm presuming that's why. I don't know if it was grown there or whatever, but yeah, it was lovely. Like, we had a vaporizer, because I don't smoke joints or that, but we had a vaporizer. I haven't done it in months, but vaporizer, you might sit down on a Friday evening and just smoke it, and you still kind of get the nice taste and obviously the relaxation of the CBD, but you don't get any of the mental high from the THC. It's a nice job, yeah. Like just something like, I suppose, like drinking non-alcoholic beer, maybe, I don't know, something like that.
It's not far off it. It's not a perfect analogy, but it's not terrible
it's
either.
grand, yeah. So I give up the green.
And was that work related? Did they do drug
No,
testing?
no, mental health related.
For your own mental health?
Yeah, not. I wasn't going mental or anything, but I noticed if I smoked, I'd be depressed the next day.
Yeah, you get a stone over.
Yeah, and I used to love the stone over. I used to love waking up on a Saturday morning and you'd have that kind of foggy head in you and you'd be like, oh, I'm going to do fuck all today. kind of thing.
And then the mortgage and the kids and all that coming along.
Before all that. Yeah, before
Okay.
I had the mortgage. Just, I really noticed it on a Friday evening I'd smoke and then I would actually be depressed and I'd be like, what is going on here? It'd be like I've went out, not the same as drinking a fucking skipload of pints and being dying the next day, but it's something similar, like, and not similar, it's different, but I wouldn't be happy, like, and this was happening every Friday night. I was smoking, depressed Saturday, half alright Sunday if I'd done exercise in the morning, then I'd smoke on a Tuesday, same thing Wednesday, do absolutely nothing at work on Wednesday, and then, yeah, this was just a big cycle that was going on and on and on, and I was like, right, fuck it, I'll give it up. Now, my girlfriend helped me because she used to smoke, but she used to never have any ill effects from it at all. Like, she'd be like, what are you on about? And I'd be like, no, I just don't feel great today. And she'd be like, you know that it's a recurring thing, like, and every Monday I'd be like, right, that's the end of it, not doing it again. Then Tuesday evening I'd call down to the boys and they'd be like, oh yeah, but yeah, and then I'd do it again, and then it was just like a big cycle, and then I was like, oh fuck, I'll just give it up, and I give it up. It took me about a month, I'd say, to get used to not having that, but I replaced it with alcohol, but I'll only drink 2 cans on a Friday night, where I would have never drank cans on a Friday night. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
I drink 2 cans on a Friday night, maybe 2 cans on a Saturday night, and that's kind of thing. But yeah, I don't. More recently, I suppose the magic mushrooms have kind of filled that void in a way. Only that you'd only do magic mushrooms maybe every 3 or 4 weeks, as opposed to smoking 3 times a week. If you know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't lend themselves to be used all the time.
No. So that would have been my vice for the last while. Yeah.
Okay. Your missus is Spanish, I believe.
She is. See?
Did she? Maybe you don't know, maybe you do, but I believe cannabis is legal in Spain.
100% not. I don't think.
Well, I've been to Spain and bought it, so in a shop. So
okay, fair enough.
Now it was in a. I had to air quotes become a member, but I still bought weed in a fucking legal shop in Spain. Like.
Well, maybe it is. Yeah, Fran. All I know is that any of her friends that smoke, or the ones that I know of smoke, would just grow it themselves.
But see, that's the thing. My understanding also is that you can grow up to 3 or 4 plants.
I think so. Yeah, I think, and just because the weather would be perfect for it, like you'd be doing it outside, and the fact it's so close to Morocco and all the hashish.
Yes, of course. Yeah,
it's very cheap. Like.
It's interesting about the weather though, because I believe you're able to grow. I think. I have in my head it's 3 or 4 plants. It could be 50. I don't know.
Yeah.
But there's a limit to the amount of plants you can grow, and I think specifically you can't grow under lights, which means you're restricted to, like, it might be most of the year, but you're still restricted to doing it outside, which kind of limits a lot of people. So if you live in an apartment, you're not going to have a whole pile of weed growing in your balcony.
Yeah.
You can, but it's not ideal.
I suppose now that her friends are a bit older, maybe they don't do it as much, but I know some of them definitely do, and most of them would have done before. Would have been growing their own little bits and pieces and on the top of their apartment or whatever it might be. Yeah.
What led you to start using psychedelics?
So I suppose my first psychedelic trip was your stereotypical young lad adventure. Went to Amsterdam with my friends, went into one of the shops, bought the magic mushrooms, took the magic mushrooms, and I kind of... I don't know. I didn't have like visuals and stuff like that, but I'll start again. So yeah, I went to Amsterdam, bought the magic mushrooms, done the complete arseways way of doing it. Didn't not eat food for a couple of hours. Was eating sweets and chewing. So basically, we got them, went up to a hotel room, sat in the hotel room, watched South Park, took the magic mushrooms, ate a heap of sweets. I was like, there's fuck all happening here. Went down to the shop to buy more sweets. Yeah, exactly. Just I remember walking out onto the street and being like, oh, what the fuck? And went down to the shop, couldn't even go into the shop and had to come back up to the room and was like, oh, this is a bit mad. And then any time I ever took any other class A's, I always remember thinking, nah,
Didn't really do it.
Yeah, no, I think doing
What have you tried? Do you mind me asking?
the full shillelagh apart from heroin, I suppose.
Okay.
Or meth, or whatever social kind of stuff. People.
So ecstasy, hash, cannabis, whatever, cocaine.
Yeah,
usual
not
suspects.
much cocaine, but yeah. Like if you were going to a festival, you might be taking a bit of MDMA or whatever might be happening. But I do always remember after that trip, and then I was like, yeah, these really aren't. I don't know. I just remember because it was like a whole. My mind was completely different. It always stuck in my head, and then.
I'm sorry, in a negative way. Like
No,
you
in a
enjoy
positive
it?
way.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
No,
apologies.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, apologies. I think when I took the magic mushrooms, and that was my first experience of anything bar weed and alcohol, that was how I kind of compared everything else.
Yes.
So I had this magic mushroom experience, which was great crack. Went down, everything was mad, and I was like, Jesus. And then whenever you're taking coke or MDMA or whatever, it's just kind of like, yeah, it's still the same, only I'm off my head. I don't know, it's not a whole different world that you're in, that kind of, maybe I'm not describing it properly. So that was, I went to Amsterdam, done it, then come back, probably didn't do anything for 2 or 3 years, and then one of my brother's friends was actually like, oh, Davey, we go up to the Hill of Tower and pick magic mushrooms. I was like, well, you can do that? And he's like, yeah, you can do that. I was like, fucking yeah, we will. Yeah, went up to the Hill of Tower, picked a load of Liberty caps, whatever they were at the time, med tea, and when I look back at it now, we got a big pot, threw them all into the pot, made tea with like tea bags, and then put milk into it. And we're drinking it like tea. I remember taking them, we got a taxi to the Vortex at the time. And I can remember, yeah, that's how long ago it was. And for anybody who doesn't know, the Vortex is like a dingy nightclub outside Dunshaughlin. And went into the nightclub, and I can remember I was standing on the dance floor with no alcohol. We didn't drink anything at all. And the music notes, I could see the music notes coming out of the speaker and going across the dance floor. And that was it. I was sold. And ever since then, the going up, picking them. I might have missed a year or two where I was on holidays or going out with somebody that wasn't interested, or whatever it might have been, and then would have picked them, had the same great experience, but would have done it twice and then not been able to find any more. That would have been the end of it. And then recently, so a year ago, just this time last year, basically we would have picked them, didn't get that many, done it once or twice, and then I was like, there has to be a way of fucking finding these things. Like, it's not that impossible. You can buy anything online. So I got magic truffles from Amsterdam and got them posted over, and that's what I've been doing for the last a year, I suppose.
My understanding of the truffles is it's psilocybin, so the same active compound that's in the Liberty caps.
Exactly, Fran. Yeah. I think from my basic understanding is they grow underneath the ground as opposed to growing out of the ground. You should know. Mushrooms grow up, and these are like the roots, or maybe something different.
Oh, it's a while since I looked into this, but it's both. They're both based. My terrible understanding of them is that the mushroom itself is similar to a fruit. So the mycelium is the equivalent of the plant, because fungi aren't plants. They're completely different, but there's an analogy you can use. So the plant, the let's say the leaves and the stems, the equivalent of the leaves and the stems is called mycelium, and it's typically underground, on the surface of the ground, but within the first inch or two of the soil, say, typically speaking. And then what happens is it, quote unquote, fruits and sends up a mushroom. And then in the mushroom are what's called spores. They're the equivalent of seeds. They get scattered, and if it's in the right environment, more mycelium will grow and a mushroom might pop up. What causes the mycelium? If the mycelium is in the right climate and the right condition and everything's just right, say, it'll send up a mushroom. But if there's something off, if something isn't quite right during that process, the mushroom, quote unquote, shoot that's about to come up kind of curls around in itself and makes like a deformed mushroom under the ground, which is essentially a truffle. I've maxed out my knowledge here now, and there's fucking my mycologist mates are listening to me and just shaking their fucking head up. Yeah, exactly, screaming at the fucking speakers. That's my understanding of it. So, yeah, the magic truffles are, it's the same. It's fungi basically. It's in a weird way, it's a type of mushroom, which is weird because are you familiar with the Chuckle Brothers? Oh, not the Chuckle Brothers, the fucking Truffle Brothers.
Go on.
So you used to be able to buy
Yeah.
psychedelic mushrooms in Amsterdam.
Yeah,
You just
yeah.
go into the shop, ask for some magic mushrooms, and you had a selection to pick from. That was all banned a couple of years ago. And there was a company who was making these, or who was growing these mushrooms, and 99% of their business was mushrooms. But as an aside, as a little kind of thing they did as product development, they started making magic truffles because it was a bit of crack, and why not? So when mushrooms became illegal, that 1% of their business became their entire business.
Yeah.
Two brothers were running it, and
Yeah.
they're kind of nicknamed the Truffle Brothers.
Did you watch a YouTube documentary on them?
Oh, possibly.
Yeah, because I've seen, you're exactly, and I'm like, yeah, that's the one I watched. Yeah,
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
you stick in Truffle Brothers into YouTube,
Yeah.
you're more than likely going to find the same kind of thing that we saw. So you've listened to mine and Ivor's conversation, or have you? Or have you?
Yeah.
Have you listened to me speak about psychedelics
yeah,
or
of
other
course.
people?
Yeah.
You, from what you've told me thus far, at least, are taking them, let's say, recreationally.
Yeah.
Have you gone much deeper than that, or do you intend to, or what are your thoughts on the whole spirit world end of things?
I haven't. I have. Once unintentionally, I took way too many, and I didn't have I suppose it was a bad experience. I just was completely off my head and was just not there at all, kind of thing. I was drunk at the time, so it's kind of hard to explain.
Okay, were you, like, could you converse with people? Were you in the room?
Yeah, I was in the room. Yeah,
Okay.
but it was like what happened was me and my friend had picked a load of them, took them, went into the, again, I was probably taking them in the wrong way, but took them, went into the nightclub in Navan, had a great old crack.
Definitely the wrong way.
Yeah, in the wrong way, but I don't know, like you go in and like you're experiencing something from a whole different...
From a very large dose, the completely wrong way.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So
sorry.
took them, went home. Your man's like, oh, we'll take more of them. I was drunk. I was like, yeah, it's a great idea.
What's the worst that could
yeah,
happen?
yeah, exactly. He took some. I took the same amount. Next thing, about an hour later, he started coming up or whatever, or getting. And I was like, well, I'm not coming up, so I took more. And
no.
Yeah, an hour later, and they were actually dried Liberty caps, is what they were. So I was like picking them, like bundles of them into my mouth, and
That'll do it.
yeah, then boom, lying on the ground, buck naked in the kitchen, sweating like a pig, and like not being a happy camper.
Yeah.
And that's the one time that I went too far. All the rest of the times I've taken them, just had kind of visuals, really just genuinely nice time, really happy, really like this. Sometimes you'll have the deeper thoughts, and you'll be thinking about something. You'll go in not even realizing that there's something on your mind, and then you'll come out of it and say, right, I need to sort that shit out, whatever it was going on or is going on or whatever it might be. That's happened a good few times. I've never actually gone into it thinking, right, I'm going to take these, sit down, and I'm going to deal with a problem I have, or figure out why I'm doing this or why I don't do this or whatever. Not really. It's more of a kind of take them. It's like an experience, like a Friday, Saturday evening, do some exercise in the morning, maybe go for a cycle, come home, don't eat for a couple of hours, sit down, get the mushrooms ready, take the mushrooms, go for a walk in the forest or whatever it might be around my house, come back and just be feeling like a champ.
Yeah, no,
that's as deep as I've gone, really. Like, to be honest.
Yeah, but look, there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah.
Provided you're not doing it, when you're supposed to be minding your kids or someone else's kids, or going driving, or kind of way.
Yeah.
The risk is all on yourself.
Yeah.
Which is each to their own, and all that
Yeah.
jazz. What I'm curious about the truffles is, do they give milligrams of psilocybin per truffle or per bag, or are there strengths? Can you?
Yeah. So
or what way does it work?
Yeah. So if you go onto the website, Fran. So I've used a couple of different companies, but basically they're all the same. They have the couple of, like, they're Mexican. They have a couple of kind of brand names. I don't know if they're brand names, type names, I suppose. They'll show you the strength from 100. I don't know how relative that is, but they'll say, visual effect, hallucination effect, laughing effect, this kind of thing, and they'll say how
not
strong.
An exact science.
And they'll say how strong they are. So you buy them in 15 gram bags. So 15 gram bags is a dose, basically.
That's wet, presumably.
Yeah. So, So I take them, and then two options, ways of what we were doing was we were boiling them, but not to. I think it's 8. There's a certain temp. I got a temperature of the yolk and all to make the tea with them. I think it's 80 degrees or something anyway before the psilocybin starts burning off. So boil them and then drink the tea. Or what we're doing lately was actually liquidizing them. We liquidize them and then drink it like a shot.
Okay.
It's rough. It's not the tastiest thing. You just gone, and half an hour later, starts kicking in, where the tea, it might take an hour and a half before you start to kind of
Right.
feel it coming on. Yeah.
When you say liquidize now, you putting them in a blender
Yeah,
or
in a
okay.
blender. So put it in a blender with water and maybe 2 raspberries or something, just to take that real, the taste. I don't mushrooms. Did you ever have the truffles?
Yes. It's like a giant snot.
Yeah,
isn't
like
it? The
rotten,
texture
rotten nuts kind of taste off them. It's not nice. So if you put a couple of raspberries, it just takes it off, and you just drink it. Sit there, you'll get that kind of sick feeling for about 20 minutes, possibly, depending on how good they are, and then next thing you'll just be like, oh geez, the colours seem a bit funny in here. Yeah.
Careful with the fruit.
Okay, go on.
The reason being, I know that, and again, this is going to be very bro sciencey, but there'll be something to it. I think if you were to take lemon instead of the raspberry, there's something in the lemon. I don't know if it's the acidity of it, or I don't know what it is, but there's something in it that really packs a punch. So you know the way you might take a dose of mushrooms or truffles or whatever it is, and you're looking at like a 4-hour period.
Yeah.
Well, my understanding, I haven't actually done it, but my understanding is especially if you liquidize it and then add it in lemon into it, or even put lemon into your tea, it'll peak faster and harder and not last as long.
Okay.
That's my understanding. Now again, I know bro science alert.
Well, I know what I'm going to be putting in my neck.
Well, look, the only reason I said it to you was in case you went one day, oh fuck, I've no raspberries. Oh, I've a load of lemon. Launch that in.
Well, I remember the last time, typical bro science, I was doing it with Adon, and
no, it's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Adon who?
Adon. And I was doing it with Adon, and in my head, if you took sugar or bars or orange juice, this stopped it working. So I was like, Adon, don't worry about it. You take orange juice, get rid of it, grand. It'll make you come out of it. He's like, all right, grand. Then he looked it up and was like, orange juice emphasizes the strength of magic. So I was like, oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, you probably got that from if you smoke too much weed, getting sugar into it is good.
Something. But the one thing I do notice is if I was having a trip, and not that I've only had 1 or 2 bad ones, but one, if you drink alcohol, it seems to just fill up your stomach, and then it kind of stops you. It kind of makes you come out of it a little bit quicker than you would normally. Yeah, because I remember we went to that Bellator, took them before Bellator, and went up to the Tree Arena and was having a great time. And I was like, after an hour or two, I was like, oh, I'll have a pint. I had a pint, and then it was just like gone. I was like, oh fuck, why did I have that pint? Yeah, it was a good experience actually.
You've mentioned Bellator a couple of times, so throw in just what that is for people.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so Bellator is like it's an MMA, less famous version of the UFC.
The UFC,
yeah, so they probably have a couple of Dublin fighters, and they have more of a European market, kind of. Well, they wouldn't. It's kind of 50-50, but they'd have more shows. So they've had two in 2019, I think we went to. It's good. The tickets are a bit cheaper, and it's a bit of crack. Anyway, I enjoy going to see any kind of MMA, whether it be regional or, whatever it might be, stuff in the GEA club or whatever in Dublin, or the National Arena, or in Bellator. So yeah, it's good. Yeah, I went to the UFC a couple of times. I went to one in Manchester and 2 in England, or 2 in Dublin.
Because there's one thing I was going to bring up. I had asked you just over text message exchange before you came on. Had you kind of interest?
Yeah.
Combat sports was one of them. When you said when people ask me what I'm interested in, I list 1,000 things, but combat sports I wouldn't say. I'd say cage fighting before I'd say combat sports. Are you when you said combat sports, were you referring to MMA specifically?
No. So just say MMA, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, K1, anything like that. So my girlfriend is quite interested in as well. So we would have. She was living in Dublin, and there'd be stuff on in Dublin every 2 or 3 weeks, and you just Friday evening you just go and watch a couple of fights. Yeah, so it doesn't matter the quality or whatever. I'd enjoy it.
Yeah, you've a boxing background. I know that.
Yeah, well, I would have played football and rugby when I was younger, and then I kept getting injured playing football, and I was always kind of interested in boxing, but there was no boxing club. There could have been a boxing club in Navan, but there was no family connection, or there was no uncle, or anything like that. And I looked it up, and I was like, right, I'm just going to have a look at it. And I was going to a gym in Dublin, and in the gym they had a boxing class in a certain area of the gym for about 2 or 3 weeks. I was kind of watching them doing the boxing. I was like, oh fuck. So I went over one day, and he went like, oh yeah. So I done the boxing in that club, or the gym, like box fit class for 2 or 3 months. Then I would join Dunboyne Boxing Club, and I was there for about a year. Then I went to then it actually closed, and I went to Celtic Warrior Gym in Dublin, which is your man Pascal Collins. He's Steve Collins' brother. And I was there for a couple of months, and then since COVID it's kind of stopped. So I done one amateur fight this Christmas just gone.
Oh, very good. I didn't
Yeah,
realise
yeah,
that.
yeah. So
Fuck.
yeah. So I went back to the Celtic Warrior gym, and I was only training for about a month or two. And your man that was there, because when I was in the Nubine Boxing Club, it's actually a legitimate amateur boxing club. So there's big stringent rules. You have to do a medical. You have to do all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, yeah, grand, I'll get fit enough and I'll do it. And then it actually closed. And then I was like, all right, fuck. So I didn't end up doing it. Then I played football for a year, and then I went to the Celtic Warrior one, and I was just doing it as like a box fit. No, it's not box fit. It's a proper boxing club, but it's a professional boxing club. But they have an affiliation to Crumlin Boxing Club. So one of the Crumlin trainers, he's this fella, what's his name, Zur or something. He's this big, huge Romanian painter. He's about literally 30 stone. He's the biggest man you've ever seen in your life, and he's real old Soviet style. I think he's from Romania. He's from some Russian bloc anyway, and he's about 50. And he's running a kind of an amateur thing because he's from where the Celtic Warrior gym is. So he lives beside it, which is just beside Blanchardstown, Corduff. And he was there, he was doing the amateur boxing, and I went to do a box fit class or two, and I was like, geez, these boys are actually doing proper, because when you go to the box fit class, you're doing bag work, and then it's just kind of, it's fucking box fit. It's not, I wanted to learn how to box properly, so I was doing that in Dunshaughlin. I seen them doing it in the amateur section, the Celtic Warrior, and I started doing that for a couple of months. After a month or two, your man's like, oh, there's the Crumlin boxing, have a Christmas boxing thing, would you like to do a fight? And then I was like, ooh. He's like, it's in a week's time on Saturday, and I was like, yeah, fuck it, go on. Because I've been thinking about it and talking shite about it for long enough, and I was like, yeah, go on. And the second I said, yeah, go on, from then until the fight started, I don't think I've ever been more worried about anything, or like anxious about something upcoming until then. So obviously went on the Wednesday to meet your man I was going to be boxing against in the little club competition. Done sparring with him. It didn't go well at all. I got a good couple of slaps.
Sorry, did you say you sparred with the guy you were going to be fighting?
Yeah. So, as I said, they have like a Christmas boxing thing, and McGregor comes and he does a couple of rounds with some of the locals or whatever, and they have like fights. So, in the Crumlin Boxing Club, they're not going to be fighting each other, so they get fighters from different clubs. So your man, obviously, based in Corduff, is like, oh, I have 2 or 3, I have a heavyweight fella or whatever. He'll suit, a year's experience. He'll suit young Johnny or whatever your man was.
Yeah, you want people matched up. You don't
exactly,
want someone experienced battering.
Yeah, exactly. So they brought me over to do sparring with your man. So your man, the coach, is like, oh, David, take it easy. He's only young, so he was 18 or something like that. I was like, all right, yeah, no problem. So he was just there, jabbing whatever, and your man gave me a good couple of slaps. And I was like, are we not taking it easy? He's like, oh yeah, I just get a bit mad sometimes. I was like, all right, whatever. Like, I was like, he's only, he's younger than me, whatever, let him at it. And then I finished it, and then I was like, I don't really remember landing any slaps on him at all, really. Like, I was like, that didn't go too well at all. Anyway. So that was on the Wednesday, and then on the Thursday, and then Friday, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, right, once I'm going to go, I'm not going to not go, because if I don't go, I'll regret not going for the rest of my life. I'll always be that, oh, you bitched out of that one. So I was like, no, fuck it, I'm going.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah. So I went on the Saturday. The fight was supposed to be at 6:30, and you probably know from your own experience that if they tell you it's on at 6:30, that really means it's on at 8:30. So
sounds about right.
Yeah. So I arrived at 7:30. So the kids' competition was on first, and we were the first of the adults up. The kids' competition finished at something like 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'd been standing there from 5:30, stomach churning, this going on and on and on. It's like, oh, me next? No, everyone's like, no, you're not next. You're next, the next. This went on and on, and then the fight started. I won the second and the third round. I'd say he won the first round, and it was over, and I felt like I was after taking the biggest bag of coke I've ever had in my life.
High as a kite.
Yeah, absolutely high as a kite. Yeah. And that was it, done. And I was like, right, I'm never doing that again.
Really?
Yeah. Just it wasn't worth the. I'm quite. Even when I was playing, when I would have been playing football when I was younger, or if it came to any kind of an important game, I wouldn't sleep the night before. My stomach would be at me for the whole day. Wouldn't be able to eat food. So picture that. Only I'm used to playing football. I know exactly what's going to happen.
Well, in football, you're one of 15 as well.
Yeah, and you've been doing it since you're 5.
Yes.
Where this is like, God, he knows what's going to happen. If I went to do it again, I wouldn't be as nervous, because I would have been like, well, the last time you actually done all right, so you're not going to panic. Like, but yeah, no, I got the big high, drove home, actually took a load of magic mushrooms when I got home. I just had one of the best days ever. And then I was like, right, yeah, I'm not going to do that again, because I was literally all week, I couldn't think about anything. I couldn't think about anything else, and he was like, this is not going to well.
It's great though, isn't it? Like, I mean, in hindsight, I'd say, like, you'd probably have that up there. Like, if somebody, if you fucking died tomorrow, and you're looking back 100%. Over your life, like, it's fucking up there. Like,
100%.
And I think the more you worry about it, the more of an impact it kind of has in you, like,
Yeah,
you know?
I think if I had went sparring on the Wednesday and it had went well, I would have been. On Saturday I would have been like, oh no, this is fine. Like, but the fact that it went really badly, and then I was like, fuck it. The worst thing once I don't get knocked out badly, I don't care. Like that was how I was aiming for the fight to go. Like, and it went a lot better than that. Like, so it was kind of like I still pushed myself to do it, and I was like, fuck it, fair play to you. You actually done it, even though you thought you were going to get the head slapped off you, and it went well, and you won, and yeah, so it was perfect. And it would, yeah, one of the like it'd be like, I know it's only a stupid regional little fighty thing, but it would be one of the things that I would be proud of, the fact that I actually done it. Like, you know what I mean?
Without a doubt,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a whole pile of difference between, you know, in the middle of Crow Park with fucking 60,000 people looking at you and you making your debut with, you know, your coach and a few friends. Like, you know, there's obviously there's a big difference, but it's still, do you know that kind of way? I think so anyway, very much.
Well, you know more than I would, don't you?
Well, I remember even before I made my debut, I was training away, and there was a guy, shout out to Josh Coughlin, who was training in the same club that I was in, but he had been there maybe a year before I started, so he was like fucking well advanced. I saw him as a fucking godlike character when I joined that club, and I aspired very much to be like him, because, you know, he was only doing it, he was a million miles ahead of me, but at the same time he was only doing it a year, and he's only human, so I was kind of eyeing him up, going, you know, maybe not in a year, but in a year and a half, because we were in the same weight class, thereabouts, whatever else. And I remember when he made his debut, it was down in some big hotel down in Wexford, White's Hotel or something like that. And myself and herself went down to check it out, because the day I fucking saw The Ultimate Fighter on the telly, I was like, I fucking want to do this 100%. So it was great to see him go down and make his debut, because I've been training with him for a couple of months. I knew his whole story and all the rest of it, and got to know him, and he was just this guy. Do you know, he wasn't a Hall of Famer that lived in America somewhere, like, you know, he was just a dude, like. And went down, and I was so nervous for his fight. I got that fucking drunk, I can't remember a bit of it. I was just lurrying pints into me, not because I was on a session, because I was just nervous. Do you know that kind of way? If I was just sipping on a pint, I'd be grand. But the second I was just standing there holding it, it was like, oh fuck. And that wasn't even for my own fucking debut. That was for someone else's, like. So I completely get where you're coming from, like. You did a bit of training with me down here for a while, and then you went. Did you train with
Roger
Hodger? Yeah,
Hodger.
Shout out to Royal Grappling Academy.
Yeah. I suppose I don't even know how that ended up. That I don't know. We must have been talking one day up in your mother's house, I presume, was it? I can't.
Just have no idea.
Yeah, I think it must have been Christmas, because that's usually when your brother was home, and that's usually when I'd be up there. So we must have been talking about it. I think I was telling you that I was thinking about doing it, because what had happened was the boxing gym in Dunboyne had closed, and I was like, I want to do something, and I was obviously, like the rest of us, to be listening to Joe Rogan. I was listening, you know, BJJ, great learning, you know, it's good for your mind and all that kind of business. And then came out here with you a couple of times, and then went up. I think I was there for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then I got the job with the corporation, and I was moved to a different location, so it wasn't beside the gym, so it wasn't on my way home. So that's kind of why I stopped. But I definitely enjoyed it. But if I'm being quite honest, the learning of the moves, the thing, I know it comes with time and stuff like that, but I prefer the fucking power of the punching. I don't know if it's me, or I'd be kind of athletic, so it kind of suits me that I'm like, oh no, I'm good at this because I'm athletic, as opposed to going, right, I'm not that good at this because I'm trying to think of what way to, you know, it's more of a thinking man's game. Maybe that's why I stopped. I don't know.
It can be.
Yeah, when I'm here with you, I thoroughly enjoy it. More so probably because instead of learning the moves, which you need to do, and that's the thing you need to focus on the most, because you're never going to get good at it if you don't do it, where like learning the moves for 10-15 minutes, rolling for an hour, where that was white belt learning for 55 minutes, possibly no roll, and then you're finished. Where I would be used to going to the boxing gym, coming out and like nearly getting sick, and then driving home and feeling like an absolute king, where I was coming out of there and I was like, oh, I'm barely sweating. Do you know that? And then I'd have to go home and do weights, or go to the gym then afterwards.
To get that out of you.
So I'm just used to that kind of. So yeah, maybe if I'd done gym beforehand and then went, I'd be probably better off.
Well, look, different. Like you were in down with Hodger, as you said, in the Royal Grappling Academy, which is a great one, isn't it? Hodger Dardis. And a fucking fantastic club. I couldn't
Brilliant.
recommend it more
Brilliant.
highly. I went to him myself for a good while, and I can't remember exactly what it was. No, it was actually, I was training with him. He was up in the rugby club at the time, and I think
In Navan Rugby Club?
yeah, we trained up there for a while.
Upstairs?
Upstairs, yeah, but it was a bit of a pain in the hole because he had to put his mats down for every training class, so
Yeah.
it wasn't ideal. Then there was a change of venue, and then he mightn't have been doing it in Navan for a while. He was focusing more of his time
Blanche.
at the time in Blanche.
In Blanche, yeah.
He's back in Navan now a
Yeah.
good while now, so I think he's up and running fully. But just with work and everything else, I never got back down to him. But he would have a very step by step approach, and there's nothing wrong with that in the least. Like it wouldn't be. Personally, I don't. It wouldn't be for me, and I don't think it was for you.
Yeah,
that kind of way.
yeah.
But if somebody wanted to kind of go step by
Learn
step,
it properly.
cross all their T's, as you said,
Yeah.
learning it fucking properly.
Yeah.
And I'll say it to you, as I say it to anyone else that trains with me down here. You want to do striking or whatever it is, fucking Muay Thai, kickboxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, or all of those combined. If you want to do those properly, go somewhere else.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not a coach. I'm not going to be able to ever train a fighter up to anything.
Yeah.
I want to just do it and enjoy it and
yeah.
learn as much as I can and train as much as I can and all that jazz. And it's a bit of crack more than anything.
Yeah, I actually bring the little fella into Roger.
Did you?
Hodger. yeah.
Yeah, as you've known from now on.
Yeah. I bring the young lad into the bottom of flower.
What age is he?
7 in November. So in a month.
And I'd imagine you'd like the adult version of his class, would you? Because presumably it's not as step by step for a 7-year-old.
No,
or is it?
Maybe less. Maybe they might spend 10 minutes just from watching from memory. They might spend 10 or 15 minutes learning a move, and then they'll try and do escapes or takedowns or stuff like that.
Yes.
And they might play a couple of games, whatever in between. But again, he must be the same as me, or I must be like a child. But he hates the first 20 minutes, and you can see him when he's not happy. And then the second he gets to take somebody down or wrestle somebody, then he's delighted. And every day after training, he's like, "I'm never going back there again."
Oh, really? Yeah.
Every time, and I'm like, yeah, but you like the last part? Oh yeah, I love the last part. But he just doesn't like the learning of the steps involved. He just wants to wrestle people. Like, that's purely it. So I actually have to keep pushing him to go. I don't know if I push him to go, because I think when he goes to secondary school in St. Pat's, if somebody ever says anything to him, he's like, oh well, I'm not afraid of you because I can do BJJ, or it's, I don't know.
Well, it's a big confidence.
Is that I think it's, I don't know if it's like it's a male thing, because you've gone into St. Pat's or you've gone into school with 1,000 young lads and you know exactly what it's like. And I would have preferred if I had some, maybe that's why I wanted to do boxing when I got older, because I was like, oh, if I knew that then, I wouldn't have been so, not worried, but you know the way you went to St. Pat's, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what it's like when you're in first year or second year. It's all a big, huge kind of...
Oh, it's
daunting
like.
enough. Yeah, where I often thought if I had that kind of background, I'd be a bit more comfortable. So maybe that's why I kind of want them to do it, but maybe I shouldn't want them to do it. But either way, it's probably good for him if he learns it. But
Oh no, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And again, like as you say yourself, he doesn't like the start of it, and that's why he doesn't go.
yeah, oh yeah, once he's there, he's...
My young lad he's 6, and like there's times when he'll bawl his eyes out, not wanting to go into swimming, but then you can't get him out. Of the fucking thing when he's in there. Like, it's just, he gets it in his head, whatever it is, that he doesn't want to go, and he needs a bit of a push.
Yeah.
And for something like, I don't think I'd push him nearly as hard to do soccer or tennis or anything.
Yeah.
But swimming and a martial art, I'm willing to push a little, not force him to do something I want to do, obviously.
God, no,
but just stick in there with the encouragement and get him going.
Yeah, no, he started playing football the last 2 weeks as well, so that's interesting to see. He just first game last week.
Oh, no way. Savage.
Yeah.
That's my alarm to warm up for the fucking training, so there's hopefully 5 lads outside, or
Let's
2 or
do
3
this.
even. I nearly said your name there. Off this alarm, hold on. Alarms don't care a fuck about flight mode, apparently. Listen, man, absolute pleasure getting on. We just did 2 hours. I get you on again because I feel we only barely scratched the surface. So thanks for coming on. I've been thinking since the last couple of recordings that I've made, I've never really put a plug out to promote myself and the whole off the lead thing. So what I'll say to anybody who's been here for 2 hours, share it with someone that you think would enjoy it. Share it via WhatsApp or email or whatever way. Just if you've lasted 2 hours and you enjoyed it, do the fucking decent thing, you bollocks, and send it to somebody.
Oh, one thing before you shut off, Frank.
Go for it.
Yeah. So I watch YouTube quite a good bit, and if you're on YouTube and the ads are pissing you off, if you go to the end of the video and then press the reload button, all the ads are gone.
Fuck off.
True story.
I didn't know that. Now, my little baby brother, shout out to Pat, past guest and friend of the show, he set me up with YouTube Vanced. So it's an app called YouTube Vanced. It's identical to YouTube, but there's no ads.
No way.
Now, I tell a lie. There might be an ad.
At the start, is it?
No, Jesus, no, not that often.
Oh,
like,
that drives me mad.
if I was to go on a YouTube binge for 5 hours,
Yeah.
I might get 2 ads. And even at that, I'm going, oh, for fuck's sake. But I know what normal YouTube is like. It's every fucking whatever it is, far too often.
2 ads at the start, and then every minute or 2 minutes, depending on the length of the video, there's an ad comes on, and it comes on. So if you one ad or 2 ad before the video plays, when the video plays, if it's a 10 or 15 minute video, there might be 5 ads in it. If you just pull
drag the progress bar to the end,
it'll stop. It'll show the end screen, and if you press the little thing that looks like a half circle, it reloads the video, and then all the ads are gone.
Savage.
There you go.
Top tech tip from Sheep. Listen, brother, again, thanks a million for coming on. We'll have you on again. Thank you. But before I let you go, I'd just like to remind everybody that this episode and all the episodes on YouTube have been brought to you by past guest and friend of the show, Pat McKeown. Pat is very similar to myself insofar as that he's long had an interest in the mind and more specifically the brain and how they both interact, to such an extent that he went and spent 4 years getting a degree in neuroscience and then spent a further year in getting a master's in psychology. Now what he's done is pretty fucking cool. He's after setting up his own YouTube channel. It's called Pat Psychology Masters and there's a link in the description. Now what he's done here is he's uploaded all the best bits that he's learned over the last 5 years and put them into short, plain English, easy to understand YouTube videos for the likes of myself. His YouTube channel has been a massive resource for me in understanding both my mind and the mind of others. So hit up Pat Psychology Masters YouTube channel, subscribe, give it a like and a comment and a share, all that kind of stuff helps, and I'll chat to you soon.